Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Field of 68 NBA Draft live show. This is technically after dark, but it's after dark pre-NBA draft and then through the NBA draft first round. I am joined by three of my favorite people on this planet. We've got Terrence Oglesby live from a country we quite frankly don't know where he is right now, but he's making time for us. We've got Randolph Childress and we've got Dauster. Gentlemen, it's great to see your faces. Tonight's going to be exciting. It's going to be chaotic. It's going to be fun. And I just can't wait to see where this goes. T.O., give me in 30 seconds, what is this draft class going to be remembered for to you?
I think it's going to be remembered for the top three. And while a lot of people think, well, you have three game changers, all three have definite holes to what they do. I think that's a big part about it. And then what could happen is between this 1, 2, 3, whether it's Jabari, Chet, and then Paolo, you don't really know how the order is going to go. The odds have been flipping all over the place. But at the same time, whoever goes 3, you look at Luka Doncic going 3 behind Marcus Bagley. It could be some kind of situation like that where there's a lot of hype, and then you look back 5 or 6 years from now and you're like, man, what were they thinking? Well, we're thinking that these top 3 have separated themselves pretty substantially, but I think there's a lot more coming in behind. And whenever you said after dark, we're talking really after dark for me. There's still a little bit of sunlight because I'm so far north, but we're rolling it right at 2 a.m., right close to 2 a.m. here local time. So happy to be with you guys, but I think the top 3 are going to stand out more than anything.
That's why we love you, T.O. I mean, you're putting in the extra hours as we've known you always will. RC,
as he says, Greg, it's Field of 68 till I die. Basically, it's Field of 68 till we put this guy in the grave.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the two is going to happen. One of the two is going to happen. RC, same question to you. What jumps out as the biggest thing? What type of draft is this to you?
I think it's going to be who finds gems. I think it's pretty deep. I think, we got that group of guards and we got a lot of, similar players. And I think everybody's now looking for that 3-and-D guy for some size. And you got quite a few of these guys in the draft. It's which team is going to fall in love with that guy. And that's all it takes. There's so many guys that you can pick from, and we can go down the list of guys, and we will at some point. But it'll be interesting to see through their workouts and through the interviews which team fell in love with which 3-and-D guy.
Rob, there's controversy at the top with this draft. This morning, I mean, the odds skyrocketed with our partners, our friends at Bet Rivers. We had Paolo Banchero go from nearly 20-1 to be the first overall pick. Basically, no chance it was going to happen. To this morning, we all wake up and it's pick 'em. And nobody knows if it will be Paolo, if it will be Jabari Smith. From talking to you before, Rob, I know you have a little theory on what's going on here with why those odds may have shifted and where we've landed now. What is that theory?
I think what was happening is that Orlando knew that Houston wanted Paolo Banchero and didn't want anybody else. And I think everybody on planet Earth knows that Oklahoma City really likes Chet Holmgren. He just fits into what they want to do and the kind of guys that they draft. So I think what happened is Orlando just sent out these smoke signals, right? They put out feelers. They leaked it to the right people. They tried to find a way to get a little scuttle out there that they're interested in taking Paolo number 1, which in turn got to the books, which in turn got to people that make these bets, which in turn we saw the line start to move a little bit. Then once people saw the line move a little bit, everybody jumped on. I think it was just smoke and mirrors, because what Orlando wanted to do is see if they could get Jabari at 3 and force Houston to make a trade up to 1. Because at the end of the day, look, if Houston drafts Paolo number 1 and Chet number 2, and you are Orlando and you can get Jabari at 3 plus a couple assets instead of taking him at number 1, you're getting more value for that pick. So I think that's all it was, is that Orlando was trying to make a play and Houston called their bluff.
Yeah, it'll be fascinating to see. I mean, as little as 5 minutes ago, we've got Woj on camera saying that Paolo Banchero is, quote, very much in the mix to be the first overall selection. We'll see if that holds firm.
He's towing the company line. He's towing the company line, G Wizzy. That's all he's doing. He got yelled at because he got rid of the drama at the top of the draft. He's towing the company line. We all know what's going on here. Come on.
He's building suspense, my friend. Okay.
Yes.
This is a game for many people, many parties involved. We'll see what happens. So, all right. In light of that conversation, we've got, Jabari versus Paolo, and I think you can throw Chet in there as well. My answer to what will this draft be remembered for? I think it's going to be remembered for the top of this draft. I think there's 3 guys who could potentially be franchise guys, and not everybody feels that way. Not everybody feels that the top of this draft is so strong. But I think in a best case scenario, there's no question all 3 of those guys, if they hit the way some think they could potentially be franchise changing stars. It's also very divisive. This is one of the first drafts in quite a while where it doesn't feel like there is clear separation between who should go one. Everybody within their right mind could pick between those three. I want to go around the horn here and hear who you would take if you were selecting first overall. T.O., let's go back to you here. Who's the best player in this draft?
I'm sticking with it. Basically the same answer that I've had all year, and the answer is Paolo Banchero. You see it on the screen, 17 points, almost 8 boards. His offensive versatility compared to these other two is superior, and especially right now. And I was thinking about it today. What would you rather have? Would you rather have Jabari Smith at 27 points a game 5 years from now, or would you rather have Paolo Banchero have 23, 24 points a game for 12 years running? Because I'm thinking that's what's going to happen, because he can do damage in so many different areas. His body is NBA ready right now. He's an excellent passer out of the post when double teams come. He's a guy that you can rely on in an offense. And if you're Orlando, you got to have somebody create shots for Jabari, because the guy doesn't dribble all that much. Does he make tough shots? Sure. Does he like to hit pull-up jumpers when coming in transition? Sure. But when it comes to the NBA and when it comes to playoff time, you need your first pick in the draft to be the guy you can get the ball to. I'm not sure Jabari Smith's going to be able to do that in half court when the game slows down. I know Paolo Banchero is going to be able to do that, and his defense will pick up steam as well. Not to mention, you just drafted Suggs. He wasn't terrific last season. And you're going to have somebody that can get Jabari Smith the ball. Who's going to get him the ball in position to score? That's going to be interesting, but you don't necessarily have to do that with Paolo. That's why I'm going with Paolo. Shot creators at an elite level are so difficult to find. That's why you go Banchero at 1.
How much did that purple suit scare you with Paolo?
For me, it almost dropped him 3 spots. I'm not going to lie. I almost slid Jaden Ivey up 1 just because that was just so full of nonsense. It's a nonsense factory over there between him and Tari Eason. Tari Eason and him look like the highlighters that you just don't use when you're trying to work.
The bigger issue is that he's going all in on this P5 nickname. Come on, man. P5. I can't think of a worse nickname in the history of basketball than P5. Paolo Banchero is plummeting down draft boards right now.
I wouldn't hate it if his name was just like Phil Banchero, but like, your name's Paolo. What do you need a nickname for? Your name is Paolo. That's a great nickname in and of itself. RC, same question to you though. Of the top 3, who's the best player in the draft if you're drafting first overall?
I disagree. I think it's Jabari Smith. I will say this. I mean, we all like Paulo. I've been a big fan of his as well all year. I think he's the most NBA ready guy physically day one, but I just like Jabari's upside. I think he's younger than these guys. He's, as much as a year younger than some of these guys in this draft. I think his upside, and he's going to fit. One of the things I wouldn't necessarily like about Paulo going to Orlando is Orlando's got 3 point guards on that roster. Somebody has to have the ball between Markelle Fultz, Jalen Suggs, Cole Anthony. They're going to dominate the ball. And now you take the ball out of his hand, he's going to be more effective playing that point forward spot. I mean, that's where he needs to be. So I think Jabari gives you more versatility. He can come into your roster, blend in different ways. And I just like his upside in his youth. I mean, he'll be more of a straight line driver to start, but he can make shots at the high level. He's going to come in because of his ability to shoot over 40% from 3, shot 42% from 3 this past year. And we don't know what he could have done with the ball, with the decision-making and guards at Auburn. And we always screaming all year he should have had the ball more. I think he wanted.
That was
the ball.
A preview for what could happen next year in the NBA for the Magic. So at least he's used to what he's about to walk into.
It's a perfect fit. That's probably why I think he'll go number 1. My vote goes to Jabari Smith. I think I would say Paulo's a close second, but I'm going to go with Jabari Smith.
I want to make one point. I want to make one point here. All the best players in the NBA, right? When they get drafted, they don't have comparisons, right? You look at them and you can't compare them to anybody at that level. Luka Doncic, right? LeBron James, Kevin Durant. These are incomparable guys. Chet Holmgren is an incomparable guy, right? There is nobody in the NBA that can do the things that he can do. And now I understand the issue with his weight, right? I understand that. And it's something that concerns me as well. But if you have a chance to get an absolute franchise-changing talent with legitimate MVP potential, which I don't think that Paolo and Jabari have in their range of outcomes. I love Paolo. I love Jabari. MVP, best player in the league, is not in their range of outcomes. And I do think that there's a possibility that Chet can be that guy. So if everything about the league is the best players that you can get, right? It's making sure that you hit those home runs. Chet is the guy that can be that home run. So why would you not want to go out and get the guy that can be the best player in the NBA at some point potentially in his career.
I would question that. My question to you would be, what does he do better than the other two?
He shoots it better than Paolo, right? He's a better rim protector than any of these guys. And I think that if he's able to put on the weight, all of a sudden you have a player that can be 7'1", that can play different positions, that can handle the ball, that can take big guys out in the paint, that can bully people down on the block. And look, the jump shot's got to come around a little bit, right? But I do think that he could end up being a better, just as good of a shooter as Jabari Smith, right? Just as effective in knocking down open threes. And that's really all he needs to do.
Rob, how much do you think roster fit matters with OKC seemingly leaning into Chet, right? Because I find it fascinating that the first overall pick seems to be a debate between Jabari Smith and Paolo Banchero, who, if they hit, are primary wing types that you're driving the offense through. Whereas Oklahoma City, a team who just drafted Josh Giddey, who had a fantastic rookie year, has Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in the backcourt. Is that maybe why they're leaning into a guy like Chet? Or you think even if you were Orlando with roster fit, you would still value Chet up at the top of your board?
I think that if you're as bad as Oklahoma City was, team fit doesn't matter. They're in player acquisition mode. They're in amass as much talent as possible and then figure it out, right? Fit is for teams that are trying to get that one piece that'll make it work and get you back into the playoffs or get you back into title contention or get you to the next level, right? Like Portland's got to worry about fit because you got an aging Damian Lillard. If you are drafting like, I don't know, if you're the Bucks or the Warriors or you're a team in the 20s, you got to worry about fit. If you're Oklahoma City, what are you trying to do? Get to 22 wins, right? Look, we don't want to be picking to the top 5 next year. No, fuck that, man. You just got to get the best player you can.
Rob, you know what's funny? I think they're in play for Paolo. I think everybody's assuming that Chet's going too. I think they're in play for Paolo. They're a team that has collected so much draft capital, has so many young guys. And every time you draft one of these guys, you got to wait. If of these guys, we all agree, Paulo's the one physically ready to come through the door day one. I think OKC needs a guy that's physically ready to come through the door day one. I don't think they're going to make a big play about it because if Jabari goes number 1, again, you don't want to give up draft capital. They probably have as much draft capital as anybody, but they're in a player acquisition
in the
mode.
history of the
drafting
league,
another
as
guy,
much draft capital as in the history of the league. They got 47 picks over the next 3 years.
It's unbelievable. They're going to be trading guys and making moves. They're going to need some veterans. I just think he's in play here more than I think people want to acknowledge. I just think physically he's coming through the door on a roster where you're looking for guys to come through. The last thing they need is another guy that needs 2 and 3 years to get ready.
I will say this about Paolo. He's the guy, he's probably going to win Rookie of the Year, right? Like if you can, I don't think those odds are up on Bet Rivers yet, but as soon as they pop up there, if you could bet Paolo for Rookie of the Year, you got to go bet Paolo for Rookie of the Year. He's going to win it. He's going to average 20 next year. I feel very confident saying that. And I don't know if anybody else in this draft we can say that about.
If Jalen Green will pass it to him.
Yeah, I'm going to say like,
It depends on the team. If he goes to Houston, he got a shot at scoring it. If he goes to OKC, I mean, if he goes the way things are going without a trade, if he goes to OKC, I don't see it. Gilchrist get no shots up. He's got to fall in line to get those shots. There'll be enough possessions, but we'll see. There's some other scorers out there I think got a shot at it as well.
Well, one of the reasons that I like Chet to OKC is that you just mentioned all those guys, Greg, Giddey, Alexander, all those guys. Like Chet can do things without the basketball at a better rate, especially like he impacts the game in so many different ways than just scoring or pounding the air out of the ball. Like defensively, he's the best rim protector in the draft. And that says a lot because there's some other pretty good rim protectors and he just swarms all over the court. They need that guy who can space the floor at the 5 because you have those guards that can get where they want to go. But Chet's weight scares me to death. That's kind of where I fall off the wagon a little bit because you can weigh $175 and be 7'1". And the problem is you're going to get eaten alive because there are some big dudes in the league now.
The other thing I'll just throw out is of teams at the top, and I can say this as a fan, clearly, I've got the Pistons jersey behind me, Pistons jersey on my chest. As a fan of a team that has tanked over the last few seasons, there's levels to tanking. And I would say at the top, Orlando, they're 2 players away from even getting to the play-in, right? Oklahoma City, they've got a nice young core. But if you know Sam Presti, he's okay to sit for one more year with Victor Wembanyama coming next season. Houston, I think same thing, probably 2 years away from really being serious about it. So with that, to me, like all three of those teams, I think could survive with Chet needing a little extra time.
Could you imagine a front court in the 4 and a 5 is Chet and Wemby?
Oh.
And for those who don't know Wemby, he's like 7'5", $190. So like those guys weigh a collective 250 pounds together at above 7 feet, dude. They better be versatile.
I'll tell you this, that would be the best thing to happen to the fast food restaurants in Oklahoma City. Those guys would be making money hand over fist.
Oh, they're ready.
Oh, all right. Speaking of making money, that's a fantastic segue. As the clock strikes 8 here, we are roughly 15-ish minutes away, we believe, from the first pick being made. We will react live as soon as we have any news coming in, and we will be here for the remainder of the first round. We may even be joined by a couple special guests as well. Stay tuned. But Rob, you mentioned maybe they could make some money in Oklahoma City. I'm fascinated by the fact that college players can now make a little bit of money to stay in school. How has that affected things? Because I look at this board, I look at the top 30 players that are going to be picked tonight, and I see some names missing from some of the best players in college basketball last season. A lot of them being big men. And I think that might say something about where the two sports are going. The NBA going away from a traditional post man. College maybe going toward the best asset being a guy who might stay 4 years and be an All-American like the National Player of the Year, Oscar Tshiebwe was last season. But then there's the NIL factor as well. Rob, when you look at the names that are missing from tonight, what do you think the biggest factor is to guys like Armando Bacot returning to school for another season?
Well, it's NIL money. They can make more money playing college basketball than they can playing professional basketball right now, right? Like Hunter is going to make about $1 million this year, probably, right? Do you think he's going to be able to make $1 million playing in the NBA? What he would have to do is get a guaranteed 1-year contract, right? A two-way you'll pay out. If you make all the money from a two-way, you're going to get just under $500K this year. So he would have to be able to match what he's making at Michigan this year. He would have to be able to get a guaranteed 1-year contract at the rookie minimum. Do you think he's going to be able to do that? He'd probably need to be about a top 45 pick in this year's draft. And I don't think that he'd be a top 45 pick in this year's draft because he's not going to do all the things you need big guys to do, right? At least not at the level that you need in a league where Hunter Dickinsons are kind of a dime a dozen, right? There's lots of really, really good big guys that are playing in the G League and that are playing overseas because they don't fit the modern NBA. And it's great for college basketball. And if that means that the sport in college is different than what it is at the NBA level, whatever, man. The NBA is the best that you're ever going to find for these sports. And it's great for college hoops because we have big names like Drew Timme and Oscar Tshiebwe and Armando Bacot and Hunter Dickinson and Trace Jackson Davis. And I'm probably missing like 3 or 4 more guys off the top of my head that are coming back to school. It's great for college basketball. And look, I would love it if some of these point guards would come back and try to capitalize, get $2 million, whatever it is for NIL money to be able to stay in college for a year. But hey, if you're going to be able to go get a guaranteed first round deal, go get a guaranteed first round deal. But I don't know how you guys feel, TORC. I think this is great for the sport.
Yeah, I think it's good. But even to kind of expand on your point, who's one of the best post players in the country this year, best passing post players in the country this year is probably not going to get drafted. Travion Williams from Purdue. And he's going to end up being, I almost hate to say this, but RC, you played overseas for a few years. I played overseas. Like that dude overseas is going to be so much fun to watch, and we're just not going to be able to watch him because the style is so significantly different than the NBA. But if you look at some of these bigger guys, like they just don't fit because the NBA is so fast right now. Because all the wings, dribble, pass, and shoot. Vicente said it must have said it 1,000 times about 50 different prospects. If the guy can dribble, pass, and shoot at about 6'7", 6'8", like there's a lot of value in that, and that takes away a lot of these 7-footers because they're so slow of foot. They struggle to guard. Drop coverage has kind of started to. Teams are starting to figure it out, especially some of these point guards who are really elite. They're able to knock out this drop coverage, so it changes things a little bit.
Yeah, here's the biggest thing with it, right? The issue is not winning games. You can win games in the regular season with big guys. We've seen Nikola Jokic do it. We've seen Joel Embiid do it. We've seen Rudy Gobert do it. We've seen all of these big guys have success, even at a lower level like Boban, right? Boban has been a really effective NBA player in the minutes that he's played in certain situations. There's a job for guys like Boban. There's a job for a guy like Kofi in the NBA. The problem is once you get to the playoffs, you see these mismatches come to light. And all of a sudden, Rudy Gobert, best defensive NBA center, gets played off the floor in Jazz series. It looks like they're going to blow up the Jazz because Rudy Gobert can't handle winning a series, right? Joel Embiid, how far has he made it in the playoffs? Nikola Jokic, I know he's dealt with injuries and stuff, and hopefully next year they can prove us wrong. But RC, how far has he made it in the playoffs? He's not winning. He's not winning NBA titles.
That's the problem with all those guys. And it's like we just watched that in the finals. And I was talking to some friends before the finals started. My wife actually got mad at me because I was like, this finals is going to boil down to it's going to be Steph and a ball screen with pick your big with Boston. And they're going to be in drop coverage. And if they switch, they can't guard it. And that's going to be your series. And the problem with all those guys we named is great for college basketball. They all need to stay because at some point they're going to go on and make money. But all of those guys have limitations and, athletically in the NBA. And it's going to, there's certain jobs for them. Like they're going to need teams will want a big to be able to say, hey, you know what? We need some size to guard Joel Embiid. We need some size. The problem they don't realize is how well Joel moves. And he's still going to be bigger and stronger than any of these guys. They made the right decision. Financially, they got a lot of money coming their way. And in college basketball, it'll be great for it. But those guys came out this year. They wouldn't have been picked on the NBA roster. They'd have been going to Europe at best.
Yeah, it's fascinating for me with the two quote-unquote best bigs in this draft. It's going to be very interesting to watch where they land tonight. And I mean Jalen Duren, I mean Mark Williams, two guys who are more traditional post players, who you've heard rumors they might slip into the mid to late lottery when I think at least a year ago, people expected Jalen Duren, especially, to maybe work his way up near the top 5. The value of the center certainly changing. I just want to say quickly, I'm watching, I've got ESPN in the background here. I can see, they're going player by player, kind of showing right in the draft room, sitting at their tables right now. This is the year of the chain, my friends. There's a different fashion statement every year. This is the year of the chain. You saw Paolo with the P5 in diamonds. Mark Williams has got a lot of bling going right there. I'm a little bit upset that I didn't bring a chain to the show. I apologize. I brought the suit coat, but not the chain. We also have some news right now. I don't know if this is news, but we at least have more rumors. Woj, just 5 minutes ago, says, as the Orlando Magic move closer to getting on the clock, Duke's Paolo Banchero is now looming as the front runner to be the number 1 pick in this draft. T.O., what do you make of this?
It's a smart bunch of guys, what it sounds like to me. That's all I'm going to say about that. It sounds like Orlando's finally back on the right track, and they need somebody that can do some more things with the basketball because their point guards aren't passing it. So if they can at least get him in some isolation situations, they might be able to win. Now, smoke and mirrors, I wouldn't be surprised if Jabari still got it. Rob mentioned towing the company line. We don't do that here at Field 68. We tell you how it's supposed to happen. So there you go. But no, it could be some smoke and mirrors, but he's worth a pick. Offensively gifted. If you get him to engage on the defensive end some more, it's not a matter of ability. It's a matter of want to. And whenever he gets to the NBA and he really wants that second contract, he's going to play some defense. So go ahead and factor that in as well.
When was the last time that we actually had legitimate drama on who was going to be the number 1 pick? Right. And I don't know if this was manufactured by ESPN and by Woj and by whoever pulls stuff like this off, like kudos to them, because I honestly, it's been Jabari for what, like 2 months. And now all of a sudden in the last couple of days, it's turned into Paolo. Now it's like, okay, is it Paolo? When was the last time something like this happened?
So
it's so much BS going on though. Come draft time. I mean,
all right, here we go. From Jeff Goodman. From Jeff Goodman, Orlando Magic will take Paolo Banchero at number 1. Source told Stadium. Wow. So Paolo goes number 1. I lit a bunch of money on fire. Son of a.
Hey, let's hope that's the only time tonight you lit a bunch of money on fire, because Rob, we sent some props back and forth in the chat. You can make this up. The night is young. Let's talk ramifications though, because I mean, for this to be considered really even in the last 24 hours, everybody's like, oh, this is smoke and mirrors. They're just trying to get Houston to trade up, right? Okay. No, they're not. They just drafted Paolo Banchero. This could have major ramifications in as soon as 2 picks from now. Oklahoma City assumed they were going to get Chet Holmgren. I'd assume that's still the same. If you're Houston sitting at 3 right now, though, and I mean, everyone has been told they're waiting on Paolo Banchero. That's their guy. Are you happy with Jabari Smith as a consolation prize, RC? I mean, you like Jabari Smith. Do you think Houston feels that way?
They're in the talent acquisition business right now too. I mean, they can't complain about a talent like that. I think those top three guys, they're going to go 1, 2, 3. It's just a matter of what order. We all agreed that Paulo was the most physically ready guy from day one. So as much as we like Jabari, as much as I like Jabari, I wouldn't be disappointed in taking Paulo either.
Yeah, here it comes. Adam Silver's making the pick right now. Let me ask you guys this: T.O., RC, Paulo never worked out for Orlando. Does that matter at all?
I didn't work out when Portland drafted me. I didn't work out. They actually left me at the airport. They didn't pick me up. I called my agent to say, "Man, get me the hell out of here." I flew in from Vancouver working out, which is the Memphis Grizzlies at the time, and they were the team that actually traded and drafted me. I think so much of smoke and mirrors go on. I don't think people realize so much stuff goes on. I was in the room and I got a call from Sacramento, and the room was split. And they were like, "Hey, we're gonna make a call here." And the coaches, these two, it was 5 decision makers in the room, and they were like, "We were split, and this could go 1 or 2 ways, and the president's gonna make the decision," and that's what happened. So it's so much. I don't think any team knows until they actually get on this clock.
Hey, they just showed Paulo, and I'm pretty sure it was his little brother, because I've never seen two people that look so similar, except you have it's a 12-year-old version of him. That was awesome. Gave him a big hug. I love moments like that. Sorry, go ahead.
What's going on
Greg.
with this suit, though?
We could spend all night literally harassing Paulo for this suit. It's just a weird move.
Are they just diamonds?
He looks
on
like the
shirt?
Joker, man.
Oh,
Are those diamonds on the suit?
All right, let's
He's
break
gonna
down his
come
game.
out- He's gonna come. He's gonna come down after, and he's gonna be like Drake, and he's like, "Y'all ain't caught up yet."
All right,
Yeah.
let's round the horn quick. I don't know if we're gonna do this for every
I
single
love
pick,
how that
but-
joke just flew over everybody's head except for
No,
RC. RC
no,
got
I
it.
got you.
Now
T.O., but
one
T.O., I
of you
want
got it.
break down his
Sorry.
game for me. What is Orlando getting out of this dude?
Big time size right out of the gate, 6'10", 250, really athletic. It can be a power player, but he also has superior quickness to whoever's going to be guarding him, because you can't guard him with smaller players. I don't care if they're 6'7", 6'8". This typical long, lengthy NBA wing, you can't guard Paulo with him because he's going to be able to overwhelm him. Is he this explosive athlete that some of these other guys are vertically? Probably not, but he's so big and physical, it's not going to matter. His jump shot's going to come along nicely. He operates good 15 feet and out. You can also use his physicality closer to the rim, and he's a good passer. I love this pick for Orlando. I've been on the Paulo train since the Champions Classic in New York. I love this pick. I love this player. He's going to be an NBA All-Star really, really quick.
So they just gave the ESPN player comparisons for Paulo. Michael Beasley and Ben Simmons. 2 guys pretty highly ranked at this moment when they were drafted. 2 guys that have, I guess you could say, faltered from where the expectations were for them.
I don't like either of those.
What's the risk
I don't
factor
either.
with Paulo though? Like, is there a chance he's just not even a guy the same way that Michael Beasley was 6 years after being drafted?
Well, those are horrible comparisons. So can we just start with that?
I think those are really bad comparisons.
Yeah,
and,
what are we
and
doing
I think
here?
the only thing that can hurt him is Orlando not having the culture with a bunch of young guys. That's the only thing that stops him. Physically, he has it. He just has to come in there and be hungry. What veteran? I don't for me, I've always said, when you draft a guy like this, Orlando's perfect. They're always in the top. You get a guy like that, I think you go sign someone to help him understand what being a pro is, what being an NBA player is, to help him meet his maximum potential. So you get this guy, you can get home, because markets like Orlando, you're going to need that to keep these kind of guys if you ever want to get to the point of trying to win an NBA championship.
So we now have Oklahoma City on the clock, 2.5 minutes until their pick. I have one final question on Paulo, and I'm sure we can talk about Paulo all night and sprinkle him in as well. But
for the record, it's Chet. We've had it reported by Shams and by Goodman. It's Chet. Chet's
Chet. Okay, so a little bit of stability, you could say. And what will be a chaotic draft night. Number 2, we have a little calmness. We can take a deep breath. So I guess my question with Orlando is this: Why the smokescreen? Do we think they tried to get Houston to come up and bite, and Houston just never bit? Or why did they move away from Jabari in the final hours?
I don't know. Maybe they just it might just be as simple as they think they're closer to winning now than they would be, than what you would need for Jabari to be able to get to where he needs to be able to be more than just like a shot maker, right? Because look, early in his career, that's what Jabari is going to end up being, a guy that spaces the floor, a guy that kind of makes shots. Paolo's going to be someone that I think can impact the NBA game more in the first 2, 3, 4 seasons. And I think Orlando just probably thinks we're closer to being where we need to be. I also will say this. I think Paolo's a better passer than he's gotten credit for.
He's
Jeff Goodman's made the comparison to Chris Webber. I don't think that Paolo is C Webb. I also don't think that he is the same level of passer as Ben Simmons, but I think that he's somewhere closer to those guys when it comes to passing and closer to being an effective shot maker and an effective scorer. So I get it. And to be frank, I don't know if you guys feel this way. I think that all three of these guys could have been a number one pick in any other draft, right? So it's not like they're doing something completely insane.
He's the only guy that could have come in the draft, though. I think that he's the only guy, Paulo, Ben Carey I'm talking about, in this draft that's going to physically be able to come in the league and overpower some people. When they switch, he's overpowering these guards. He gets that ball screen, dribble handoff, and you switch. He can, and he's shown at the second half of the season. I thought that's when Duke kind of made their run, late in the year, was when teams started saying, all right, we don't want to switch. We can ill afford to put a smaller person on him. And they started flashing him right there, that elbow, and him putting his head down and bully guys. At 250, he's coming in there day one. He's bullying people. And there's no other player in this draft that's doing that. Everyone else needs physical maturity. He doesn't need it.
Kind of like Paul
Chet
Pierce
just went number 2, guys.
Other wings.
Oh my God, get out of here with that Paul Pierce comparison, T.O. You spent too much time overseas, man. You need to, what you need? You need some darkness. You need some Paul. He said Paolo's Paul Pierce. You need some darkness. You need to get some sleep. That's what's going on right now. Is you haven't gotten enough. You need a good night's sleep. The 24 hours of light is getting to you right now. But I'm going to give you 30 seconds to say what you got to say, and then we got to get to Chet.
The Michael Beasley comparison was better.
That was terrible too.
Yeah, Chris Webber. That one was fantastic. No, here's the thing:
Chris Webber,
you can't put him in a box compared to what other people do. Plus, you also have to see where he operates from. Like, where does he operate from? He operates 15 feet. That's where he's best because he's so quick in these short bursts, and he overpowers guys. He gets his shoulders on guys and he keeps them in position. Paul Pierce used to do the exact same thing. That fadeaway shot he hit at the beginning of the year at the Champions Classic, going away from the double team, that looked just like Paul Pierce. It was the exact same thing. It's the exact same moves. He's not the dog he was yet, but a lot of the same things that Paul Pierce did really well, those were in Paolo's bag. But what other 6'10", 260 guy can you compare him to? That's where the problem runs. Well, you can't. All right, let's talk.
I would make an old school comparison and say he's Derek Coleman before I'd say that.
I like that. I like that one too.
I love DC. I love DC.
I like that.
All right, let's talk Chet. Let's talk Chet. Greg, talk to me about Chet.
Yeah, I mean, Chet goes 2. That was expected. I genuinely, I'm glad to have a little deep breath because I think things are going to get so chaotic here quickly. I think there are a ton of teams trying to move up to Houston. I don't think Houston wants Jabari Smith, and I think that pick's available if I had to guess. I'm excited for Chet in Oklahoma City, though. I really am. I think the mix of fit and skill-wise excites me there. I have a question for you guys with Chet going 2. We look back on so many drafts and guys that were obvious number ones at the time. In hindsight, years later, sometimes you look real stupid compared to who was taken number 2. What's the risk factor here? I assume it's small now that it's Paolo instead of Jabari, but is there a chance that years from now we look back and say, how did a team like Orlando pass up on Chet Holmgren? RC, what do you think?
No, I made this comparison before. I've always compared Chet. I didn't like him. I always said physically. I always remained, Jermaine O'Neal was the guy. When I was with Portland and we drafted Jermaine O'Neal, it was just go straight to the weight room, spend a year there. I think that's what he needs. I mean, if he's not 200 pounds, I just think you're risking. You can't tell me there's anyone in the NBA that has a body like that. There isn't one. We can make Kevin Durant is a legit guard, so we can throw that comparison out of the window. He was a legit guard on the perimeter. You're talking about a guy that's a legit
I will say this.
4 or 5.
Let me say this, RC, real quick on that point. If you go back and look at the pictures of Giannis from when he was drafted, it's not all that dissimilar. Now, Giannis has broader shoulders.
Shoulders were broader.
Broader shoulders. Sorry. That's going to be the issue. Evan Mobley is the guy that I would say is probably the most similar, but Evan Mobley, 1, is already 40 pounds heavier than him, and 2, I think is better at being a positionless. Like Evan Mobley can switch 1 through 5, and I don't think that Chet can necessarily do that.
Can do that, and that's my think he's limited to being a 4 or 5. That's what he's going to have to do. And I don't know if he's going to be able to switch and do that. But again, he's a talent. They have patience there. They're not going anywhere anytime soon. They're in the talent acquisition business right now at OKC. And I love the organization. I'm fans of those guys in that organization, but it's going to take some time for them to get that thing going again.
And I want to say for the record that there is a legitimate chance that we look back at this and say, how the fuck did Chet not go number 1? There's also a legitimate chance that we look back at this and say, how the fuck did Chet go number 2? Right? Like somebody is going to get fired because of Chet Holmgren. It's either going to be Sam Presti for drafting him over Jabari Smith, or it's going to be, I don't even know who the GM for the Magic is, but it's going to be someone in that Magic organization is going to get fired because they did not draft Chet Holmgren. Walt Disney. Yeah, Walt Disney's getting fired.
He's getting fired.
So we have Woj getting creative with verbs again, folks. We have Jabari Smith atop Houston's draft board at number 3. Shams just confirmed this as well. Jabari Smith will go 3rd to the Houston Rockets. So maybe a little bit of a switch up as far as order goes, but ultimately the top 3 stays the same. Fellas, I can't shake this feeling, and maybe it's the Pistons fan in me being desperate here. I think Jabari Smith's going to be on the move tonight. I really do. I don't think Houston wanted him. I think he's a consolation prize, and I think the Houston Rockets are fielding phone calls right now. T.O., am I crazy for this? Am I just manifesting this?
You might be, but what's going to happen is Houston's going to come out in the press conference and say, we got number 1 pick in the draft. So I don't see how you justify trading Jabari Smith with all the hype and everything coming in, unless you're able to get proven veterans that can go along with Jalen Green and God knows who else is on that roster right now.
And think about it, man. Think about throw out John Wall, because that man is stealing money right now. He's wearing a mask. He's walking into the Houston Rockets office, and he is just saying, give me that money, give me that bag, and I'm leaving, right? He's played 40 games in 3 years and made $120 million. 40 games, $120 million. Great work if you can get it. But you got guys like Jalen Green over there. You got Kevin Porter. What do they need to operate, right? A guy like Jalen Green, as explosive as he is, what's he need? He needs space. What's Jabari Smith going to do? He's going to create space. Now, I don't know if he's ever going to actually get a pass from either of those guys. I don't know if they're driving and kicking. That ain't happening. But he will create space. And I think that is a good fit for Houston. But I also think, look, they're what?
They'll be fun to watch.
They're a year away from being a year away, right?
Yeah. They're 2 years away from being 2 years away.
But here, I will tell you this about Jabari. I'll tell you this about Jabari. I told this to RC when we did a scouting report. T.O., we've talked about this. Greg, we talked about this. Jabari, in 5 years, is going to win somebody a playoff series, because I think he's going to be able to play small ball 5. He's going to be that ultimate switchable dude. He can defend. He's a shot blocker. I'm going to get cliche here, but he got that dog in him, RC. Right? He's tougher than people realize. Like he will scrap, he will fight, he will defend, he will make hustle plays defensively. He's probably the best shooter in this draft. Let me ask you guys this. RC, you played off the bounce. T.O., you never played off the bounce. When you have a guy that is bred as a shooter, no, it's serious. Like, we got a great shooter, and we got a guy who is known for being able to create his shot, right? How difficult is it to be able to develop?
First of all, I crossed the absolute shit out of Eric Hayes when he played at Maryland. Now, I'm not saying he was some kind of fucking defensive stud, but I crossed him up so bad he left his shoes on the floor, son. Let's just like keep this in perspective. Dude's got moves.
Okay.
Dude's got moves. All right.
Okay. T.O. had one.
I felt like I got
one good move in his career. But in all seriousness, how difficult is it to develop that off the dribble? Because that's the difference between Jabari being like a good role piece and like essentially Harrison Barnes, maybe a little bit better, right, and being a guy that is an all-star, a Paul George, a top 10 player in the NBA. The developing it off the dribble game. How hard is it to do that at this point in his career? RC, you go first.
I don't think he'll ever be a Paul George. It's funny when guys come in the gym and they always like, hey, coach, I want to work on my handle. Like, you either can do it or you can't. Because there's a difference in being able to dribble well enough not to turn it over. And then there's something being well enough to dribble where you're creating space and all the secondary moves that go with it. He shoots it well enough to be able to play off the dribble, more straight lines and get a step back or so. But I would never put him in that Paul George category. Paul George can be a legit point guard.
Start celebrating, Greg. Start celebrating, Greg.
We have things,
start celebrating, Greg. Start celebrating, Greg.
The Sacramento Kings are keeping the pick at 4, which again, kind of called this. It's not gonna lie. They're taking Keegan Murray, which, T.O., we've gone back and forth on this. I applaud the Sacramento Kings for picking the fourth best player in this draft. Keegan Murray is going to be a 17 to 20 a game guy for 12 plus years. No nonsense. Put his head down, go to work. I'm really sad for him. He's ending up in Sacramento, but good job, Kings. For the first time in a while, good job, Kings. Gentlemen, that leaves Jaden Ivey.
This is selfish.
That leaves Jaden Ivey available to Detroit, baby. RC knows a little bit about the Motown, okay?
All right,
and we got some excitement coming to Detroit.
But before we get into that, T.O., finish your point on Jabari.
I can't freaking remember it now. Now I'm ready about Keegan Murray.
Let's go. Keegan Murray to the Kings, man.
Let me wrap Jabari Smith up with this though. Can we at least acknowledge he went from the most selfish guards in college basketball to the most selfish backcourt in the NBA. Kevin Porter Jr. and Jalen Green, he's prepared. Okay, yeah. He's prepared.
We've made that joke. We made that joke about Orlando. We made that joke about Houston. What does that say about the teams? You pick guards that are going to be selfish. You're probably going to be picking in the top 3 of a draft. Maybe don't.
But good point. Good point. You got to have guys give it up. But I like the fit at Sacramento with Keegan Murray because he's not going to be relied on solely. De'Aaron Fox is a dude. I love that guy. They have scoring options around the wing. Kings. I hope they can get good because, like I've stated before on numerous podcasts, felt like a Kings lifer until they got rid of Jason Williams. But they have spots for Keegan Murray to be successful in that lineup. So we'll see how that goes.
All right, Keegan Murray. T.O., I know you are not the biggest fan, and I think I fall in the same camp as you when it comes to what he is as a player. The reason why it's baffling to me that you would take him over Jaden Ivey is that Jaden Ivey has all the upside in the world. If everything clicks for Jaden Ivey, we're looking at an all-NBA guard. Keegan Murray is going to be a good piece on a good team.
Yes.
Now, sometimes that's enough, though.
Yeah, exactly right.
But you're the Kings, man.
But they have an all-star point guard. De'Aaron Fox, like that guy is really good.
He's legit.
He's a dude.
So legit.
So here's what I'll tell you.
They went for fit right here. They went for fit.
And you could have gone for fit at 5, at 6, at 7 with Keegan Murray, with Benedict Mathurin, with another guy of that ilk. Why are you taking him with the 4th pick when you could have traded that pick, had someone go up and get Jaden Ivey? Maybe those deals weren't available, but that's what I would have done, man. Like I feel like you're leaving value on the table when you're an organization that needs as much value as possible, man. You just traded Tyrese Halliburton for a big guy. What are we doing here?
Dude, hey, didn't ESPN just put up a graphic earlier today where the Kings are always 1 pick away? Where it was like Bagley, then Doncic, then somebody else, and Damian Lillard. And then it was like one more. Again. And then they're going to do the same thing. And Jaden Ivey is going to have a hell of a 15-year career in Detroit. And we might never ever hear from Greg again. That's how fired up he's going to be.
That just locked it in. That just guaranteed that Jaden Ivey is going to end up being a 15-time All-Star. Buckle up. Buckle up. You just got a Hall of Famer, Greg. Congratulations, bro.
I don't know that we got the Hall of Famer yet. I don't know. I'm waiting for this to be confirmed, gentlemen. I'm not until I see Adam Silver walk on stage and crown my future shooting guard.
How about Woj saying Purdue's Jaden Ivey is landing at number 5 for the Detroit Pistons? That is it. Look, I'm done talking Keegan Murray. I'm done talking Kings because I want to talk about Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey in the same backcourt. RC, talk to me, man.
He went to the best fit. I like him there. Being an off guard there, I didn't like the conversation when people talking about him playing a point. I didn't see that. I think he would struggle with his decision making. You need someone else putting him. You just need him getting his head down, using his athleticism, attacking, shooting, just looking to score. You put him as a point of your team. I don't think he's ready for that. I don't think he's ever done that. And then you're going to put him at the highest level and try to make him a point guard. But putting him at the off guard spot, you got a problem now. I mean, they got something.
I love it beside Cunningham.
I love him beside Cade. That's a big fit.
Yeah, I mean, Cade Cunningham, this ever steady presence, handles the ball really well, passes it, gets rid of it. You had this lightning rod in Jaden Ivey. I love.
They'll complement each other really, really well. They'll complement each other incredibly well. His athleticism versus Cade, just high IQ, steady, his size. I mean, those two guys now. I mean, I wish they had kept Grant. That would have been fun to watch.
Yeah, that
You want
was an interesting one for me. But the Jaden Ivey, like, he wasn't a particularly great defender at Purdue because he gambled a lot and he just kind of coasted.
You know,
But he
that's
has the
kind.
potential to be
That's
really.
kind.
Yeah, I'm being kind. I'm a nice guy, Greg. What are you going to do? So, like,
Well,
he
that's
could be. He
so
has the potential to be
my
a
thing,
really good
boys. Like,
defender.
he does. And this is why I've been a little anti Jaden Ivey. And I'm going to have to quickly get over that. You can cut all the footage of everything I've said about him for 2 years. He's my guy now, if we're not clear enough about that. What scared me about him in college was I don't feel like he did anything great other than downhill transition, coast to coast, going right. I mean, he's as good as probably the best professionally, right? We know that. But in the half court, what counters does he have? Do we really buy his jump shot? I never really have. He was really hot for 2 months, and then he was really cold for 3 months. You do buy his shot, Rob.
Yes, I do. I think that he's going to end up being a really good shooter. And I'm trying to get the stats from Synergy up in front of me, but he was a really good, like, catch and shoot guy. I think if you look back at it outside of his freshman season, if you look back at what he did in high school, on Team USA, on some of the other places that he's played, he's always been able to make sure. I buy the jumper. I actually think he's a guy that probably shot a lower percentage than what he is as a shooter because of some of the difficulty of the shots that he was taking. They didn't have any.
You got to realize too, when the spacing that he's going to have now, you wouldn't be surprised if he explodes. He always had that old school big clogging down the paint. The paint was never open now, so he's going to have he's going to see things now that he hadn't seen. The spacing is always better in the NBA, but now he's not going to have a 5-man in the center that that's clogging up the lane that he always had during his time at Purdue.
Yeah, the NBA game being so spread out is just going to play to his game so much better than college ever did.
And you don't have the biggest thing is you don't have to the thing that he is. I don't think that he's ever going to be a high level passer, right? Like, he's never going to be. You keep getting these comparisons to John Morant, which to me are completely unfair for Jaden Ivey, because John Morant is like an all world passer, right? When he was in college, he averaged 10 assists a game. He averaged 24 and 10, right? And Jaden Ivey is not that guy. If he was that guy, then Matt Painter would have actually played him at the point instead of playing him off the ball. Let Isaiah Thompson or whoever the hell it was that they were running at the point, whatever bum it was, that if he was a point guard, he would have been playing the point in college. And now you're putting him next to a guy that, like, look, Cade Cunningham is that dude. Cade Cunningham is a surgeon with a quarterback's vision, running the point. And Jaden Ivey is all energy, all explosiveness, all getting to the rim, that can also create something on his own, that can also knock down an open three. That is the perfect combination in a backcourt. Now, are they going to be able to guard? Well, you got a 6'8" dude with a 7'2" wingspan that in theory should be switchable. And you got one of the best athletes that you're ever going to see in Jaden Ivey. They should be able to, right? And defense at that level,
but none of these guys that we're talking about, there hasn't been a guy that's been drafted yet that we can sit here. The best thing we can say about any of them is Chet Holmgren is the best. He's a really good off-ball shot blocker. Other than that, everyone else has deficiencies defensively. They just don't know how hard yet they're going to have to play, and who wants it, and what organization demands that out of them. We'll see. But none of these guys so far, we're sitting here thinking about one-on-one strapping and locking anybody down.
I will say, as someone who's been skeptical of Jaden Ivey in the 2 years I've watched him in Big Ten play, I do think that Cade covers up a lot of his deficiencies and minimizes those deficiencies. Like, Jaden Ivey can just go be great at what he's great at in Detroit, and it's a really good fit. They don't need him to be more than that with what they're currently building. So yeah, I'm ecstatic, even though I kind of have to backtrack a lot of my Jaden Ivey hate the last couple of years. I'm ecstatic right now. Cheers, Detroit. So let's reset a little bit, right? Because no matter what the order was, I think there were some prizes with the order. People expected Jaden Ivey to go fourth. People expected Jabari Smith to go first. The top 5 players in this draft, consensus-wise, went in the top 5. And now we have the Indiana Pacers coming up to pick 6th. And there's a lot of different directions that they could go. You've got what I would consider the biggest unknown in this draft being Shaedon Sharpe, arguably a top 4 or 5 upside guy, but a guy who has not played competitive basketball in quite a bit of time. And then you've got more proven college guys like Ben Mathurin sitting there for the taking. You've got the 2 bigs we mentioned at the top. You've got some international prospects. Where are we headed next, T.O.? If you were GM of the Indiana Pacers, who's atop your board at this point?
Ben Mathurin. just because of his athleticism, his ability to knock down shots. He plays with such good balance, and he has such good lower body strength that I think he's going to be able to compete right away. He does a lot of things really, really well. And the fact that he can knock down shots on top of attacking the rim at a high rate, I think he fits the bill perfectly. He did a lot of really good things at Arizona. You saw him improve between his freshman and sophomore years. I think he's the way to go.
The crazy thing about Ben Mathurin, how about this? Chet Holmgren turned 20 years old on, I believe it was May 1st of this year, right? Ben Mathurin turned 20 years old on June 19th. He is 6 weeks younger than Chet Holmgren, and he's a sophomore. Puts in perspective what he was able to do this past season to me.
It's amazing how much that matters. I was reading an article today about Jake LaRavia, how they had him as 22 years old on Google, and then he found that out, and then he changed it to where he's actually 20 years old, and then
he's 20 years old,
late second round all the way to the mid to back end of the first. Like, it's amazing what 2 years difference is.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're gonna, in their eyes, they're gonna get a glimpse of what you're gonna become by the time you're 21, 22 years old.
Yeah.
And so if you're coming out of school 22, I think they're looking at these guys like, hey, your ceiling's just so low. You're just gonna be one of those. Let me see, what you see is what you get from some of these older guys.
Mm-hmm. So who would you take right now for the Pacers?
We haven't seen movement as far as trades go right now.
Yeah, they have Tyrese Halliburton, right?
Yeah,
they do.
I mean, so
Brogdon is going to be. You talk about trades, Greg. Brogdon, isn't he someone that is going to be?
Yeah, there's somebody. They're shopping him around right now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's a lot of teams who have sort of thrown "this is what we have" out there. Like Charlotte trying to get rid of Gordon Hayward. Package a pick with that. Could we see 13 or 15 on the move? Absolutely. Malcolm Brogdon is very available right now. Little surprised it hasn't happened yet. I do think something's coming here soon. But man, Indiana's kind of stuck. I feel for them a little bit because I think they were sitting at 6, hoping that either Sacramento or Detroit was going to mess this up. And if you had told me before the draft started that one of those two teams would mess it up, I would have leaned that one would, right? I would have leaned someone takes a crazy upside pick or just moves the pick in a weird way and they land Keegan Murray or they land Jaden Ivey at 6. Instead, kind of stuck. Like, does Ben Mathurin really move the needle? Even if we think he's the best player, like if you add Ben Mathurin to Indiana, aren't they just back in the lottery next season? Or do we really think he has first-year impact like that?
I don't know if he has first-year impact, but I do think he is a guy that when you put him next to someone like a Tyrese Halliburton, look, Tyrese, we talk about guys that are great passers, right? Tyrese to me is one of the best point guard passers that you're going to find. Now, is he a full-time point guard? I don't necessarily know if that's the answer, but if you're just asking Ben Mathurin to stand out there, make threes and play some defense, I really think that he's able to do that in the NBA as a rookie. Maybe not as a starter, but as someone playing 20 to 24 minutes a game. You know, he's got the body, he's physical. He's not one of these guys where you get him in, you say, okay, we need to put weight on this dude. We need to get him eating as much food as possible because he's got to put 25 pounds on. Like, he's built. He's not Jalen Durham, but he's built. And I think that he'll be a good fit alongside Tyrese, no?
I think the
I like the fit on paper. Yeah, I like the fit on paper. I also think, like, both of those guys are guys I would probably like to fit with almost anybody. Like, I think they're kind of plug and play no matter who's around them, which bodes well to have two of them. Here, Indiana is about to announce the pick right now. Because I'm Mathurin. So swept up. It is Mathurin? Okay, it's nice. Mathurin. All right, so that leaves us with, I think, the biggest boomer bust guy that I mentioned, Shaedon Sharpe.
Can we talk about Ben Mathurin's suit?
Absolutely, we can. Absolutely, it's a great suit.
How do you feel? I love it.
It's a good suit.
Sometimes these guys go a little bit over the top, and that's a little bit over the top, but that works for me. I don't know about you guys. He looks good.
He's in touch with his emotions too. You know, the tears are flowing right now. The red complements that really nicely. He's got the cut. He's got the braids. Yeah, I like it. I like the all-around look from Ben right now. So Shaedon's dropping, right? Shaedon, again, upside-wise, is he closer to top 5? Maybe. Downside-wise, is he out of the lottery? Maybe. Nobody really knows. Field of 68's own Jeff Goodman has said he's the best player in this class multiple times. And I think that's changed a little bit as far as the draft applies to that. But at this point, if you're sitting at 7, if you're the Portland Trailblazers who just acquired a win now player in Jeremy Grant, you can't possibly take the risk that is Shaedon Sharpe if you're the GM of the Portland Trailblazers. Can you, Rob?
No, I think you need someone that can help you win immediately, right? Like, how many years does Damian Lillard have playing at the level that he's at? What, 3, maybe max 4? But he's 31, right? 32 now. How many years does he have playing at this level? You need someone that can help you win immediately. And I don't know if Shaedon Sharpe is necessarily that guy. I mean, you look at who's left on the board. I don't know if there is someone that can step in right away and be able to contribute for what they would probably need. No?
Not only that, they have the kid that played at IMG, was committed to Tennessee, and then went to the draft. Help me out with his name real quick. That's been really good lately. He's just kind of starting to come along.
Anthony Simons.
Boom. Anthony Simons. He's been playing. Yeah, he's been playing a little bit better as of late. So I'm curious to see, Shaedon Sharpe's a heck of a swing, and he's still really young. And whenever you said he was a top player in the class, Greg, it was top player in the 2022 high school class. When he went forward, not necessarily the top player in this draft class, but he is talented. That's the kind of thing you look at. Like, he hasn't played in a couple of years, but Rob, whenever me and you and Jeff, we were all down at Peach Jam, like, he was far and away the best player there. Like, far and away the best player there.
Yeah, and he's also told everyone that it was his decision not to play for Kentucky last year, right? Like, look, I get it. The talent's there, the potential's there, the physicality's there. He also has not played a competitive basketball game since we saw him 11 months ago at Peach Jam. He's never played a higher level of basketball than Peach Jam.
Yeah, he's going to be interesting to watch, because he could be that guy. We referred to it earlier today, where it's like, how in the world did he go 6 or 7 or 8? Because you don't really know, because nobody really knows. And this guy,
he's stuck in the smoke. RC, he's stuck in the smoke.
I won't say that. I think you got to be really secure as an organization. Like, we use Portland as an example right now. Portland doesn't have time. They're on a clock with Dame Dash there. I mean, with Dame Lillard. I mean, with Dame, with Dame Dollar, they got to make a decision. They need to get it done in the next year. And if they don't get it done in the next year or two, then what are they going to do? I mean, you can't take as talented as he is. Now, we get down to another team coming in. I mean, we could. He just needs to go somewhere where one of these organizations where they're going to give him time to develop. He's going to need some time. Portland is just trying to get older. They need to get some veteran guys in there. They got to win right now and make a playoff push. If not, then you need to blow it up.
They better hope that Shaedon Sharpe's going to help them win, because they're drafting him.
Really?
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. I like this, gentlemen. The more that we've talked through this, here's why I like this. I don't think there's a guy.
Talk me into it,
Rob. I don't think there's a guy that was going to help him win now. Like, what? It's all nice to say, like, Shaedon Sharpe can't do it, but until you have to start naming names, like, are you taking Ochai Agbaji at 7 because he's a win now guy? He's a veteran. Fine. Like, I like some of these players, but at some point, if you're Portland, no matter who you take in this spot, you're not moving the needle past where you were with CJ McCollum playing next to Dame. Take the upside swing. If the timeline doesn't work, fine. But God forbid it does. God forbid Shaedon Sharpe a year from now is 75% of the player we think he could be. I think that's a much higher ceiling than anybody else they would have taken here at 7. I'm in.
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah. And to your point, you mentioned Anthony Simons or however the hell you say his last name. They've been able to develop him, and it was kind of the same thing, right? Like, high upside dude, talented dude, athletic, never really played basketball at that level that we needed to see. Someone that didn't end up going to college and went straight into the draft. And they've gotten him into a guy that I don't have his numbers directly in front of me, but like, he's good. He could play. So I get it.
That's one of the reasons they felt secure in shipping off CJ.
Mm-hmm.
CJ McCollum, because they have this young guy coming up. Now, again, you're looking at a timeline with Dame Dash or Dame Dollar. I don't know which one it is, but I'm going to go Dame Dash. But I'm interested to see how Portland kind of progresses forward, because they got to win now forward. They draft a super talented young player that nobody's really seen play in a year and a half, and it's time's running out. And Damian Lillard is as loyal a guy as he is. The dude's going to get impatient eventually.
Great.
Yeah, it's shocking he hasn't been a little impatient by now, to be honest with
But
you.
who would you? But
so
kind of go along with what you're saying, Greg. Kind of go along with what you're saying. Like, who would you take if you wanted immediate help? Like Jalen Duren could come in and play immediately. Like, but like, there's still question
I
marks.
was
and like
thinking
those
more of
guys
a
that can help
trade.
you.
I mean,
Yeah.
I was thinking more of a trade, maybe trading it for a veteran, a veteran guy, thinking they're kind of going all in. And that's the way you're going to have to build it in Portland anyway. You're not going to be a free agent destination place. So it's got to be draft some guys and then make some trades. And, we'll see what happens. I think they, at some point in the next probably year or two, they'll, I want to see Dame, Lillard move on somewhere just for the sake of, I think he's a big time player, and I would love to see him get on a platform to make a deep playoff run, but I don't see that happening in Portland.
I have a question for you guys. Do you think that Coach Cal is in the green room celebrating with Shaedon Sharpe right now, talking up the fact that, look at us, Kentucky basketball, we got the number 7 pick in the draft? Or do you think he's like, look at this guy, he ducked all the smoke all year long, and that's why we lost to St. Peter's? What do you think, Coach Cal? How do you think Coach Cal feels right now?
He's not there, is he?
He usually there. I doubt it.
Yeah, he's not going there.
He can't take credit for it.
If Cal was
I'll
there,
tell
you would know it.
If Cal is there, he's sitting at Ty's table right now.
I was going to say he's going to show up when Ty gets drafted, 100%. We have a lovely Austin Powers montage for Shaedon Sharpe right now. I don't know what producer at ESPN greenlit that, but that's fantastic. Kudos.
The international man of mystery.
it's fantastic. Apparently, we also missed a classic Kendrick Perkins pronunciation botch. Last year we had Moses Moody. This year apparently OG Ananobis. So look, it's good. The headphones are really screwing us on some of the fun of this draft, I will say.
OG
All right,
Ananobis.
we got it in. Dyson Daniels going number 8.
Okay.
To the Pelicans.
John Fanta's guy. Dyson Daniels.
Yeah, a lot of people like Dyson. He look, this is a good time to sort of pivot to the Ignite versus the college route, right? Because let's throw out a name, for example, Jaden Hardy. I think a year ago, people thought that kid was a bona fide, no doubt, top 5 pick in the draft. He announced he's going to go play in the G League. Now we're wondering if he's even going to be selected in the 20s. And Dyson Daniels, a guy who showed a lot playing in the G League this year, a guy who clearly benefited himself. He rose up the draft boards now to be selected 8th by the Pelicans. But that hasn't been the case with everybody. Rob, how does the Ignite program benefit / hurt guys? Now, a couple of years into this, what do you think the trend is across the board for prospects heading into the draft?
I don't think it's really helped all that many guys. Dyson Daniels probably got drafted higher than he would have if he had gone to college, or what he was projected to be before he went to college, right? But we saw it hurt Jaden Ivey, right? No one is talking about Michael Foster at all.
Yeah, I was about to bring that name up. Michael Foster was a big-time name, too, coming in.
Yeah, he was a top 10 guy, and Jaden Hardy has kind of fallen off a little bit. And I think we saw last year, Jalen Green, it helped him, but no one really knew who Jalen Green was. He didn't have the same kind of profile. I think that if you go to the Ignite, it needs to be the right fit, right? It made sense for Dyson Daniels. It made sense for Marjon Beauchamp, right? He's a guy that was a JUCO kid, and if we can get Jason Hart on, we'll talk to him about this a little bit. Took a different path, right? He went to work out out of high school, went the route of just trying to work out and go straight to the draft. COVID hit, he wasn't able to do that. He went to junior college in somewhere in, I forget where it was in Washington, in Tacoma, I think, and then he ended up going to Ignite. So it worked for him, right? I think that G League Ignite would be perfect for someone like an Amani Bates. He doesn't need to go to college. He doesn't need to increase his profile. Everyone knows who he is. Everyone has a bad impression about him. Go get off the radar for a year, focus on his craft, develop, work with pros, get some of the influence of maybe his family stuff, some of these other things going on around him, get that out of your life, go to LA, go work out, go be with the Ignite, go be a pro in every sense of the word for a year, get your stock back, get your game back, make sure that the main thing is the main thing. So it's a fit. It all depends on what each player ends up needing. And I know that like we need to find a way to kind of put a perfect little bow on it. That's how these things work. But I do think there's always nuance with this conversation, right?
There certainly is, but you said Imani Bates to the G League. Like, you want to talk about some dogs in the G League. Every game matters to every player. I played a limited amount of time in the G League. It is not easy. And guys with slender bodies, played with a guy named Perry Jones who just couldn't get loose in the G League because he was too skinny, because they bodied him up. Every game is a playoff game to those lesser talented guys like myself, those lesser talented guys that are just begging for a two-way. Like, it's hard. And when it comes to bringing these young guys over, they need to have one, you need to be physically mature. And Michael Foster, he's fallen off the radar, but he had good stats. He averaged over 15 points a game there, and he's still not getting a whole lot of love. So you tell me if that really helped him. Plus, he's not able to benefit from his name getting out there. We referenced NIL earlier with some of these big guys making $1 million and things like that. Michael Foster could have been put in position to have some success with that avenue. Now you're looking at a fringe into the second round pick. So like you said, it has to be the right fit. But guys, I'm almost to the point to where any 18-year-old kid, go to college, because like, if your body's not ready for the G League, it is not child's play there. You better be so athletic like a Jalen Green, or you better be so skilled and talented. Like, it's not for these, it's for the elite of the elite, like these top 4 or 5 kids. It's not for that next 8 to 25 area guys, but like a Michael Foster, for example. It's really hard for those guys, man. I'm telling you, it's a difficult place to play.
No, it is a difficult place, but it also gives these guys it gives them a peek or a glimpse of what it's going to be like. It's to help them accelerate. All right, this is what you're headed to. You're going to go up, the physical, all those things that we're talking about. That's the reason they're going, to kind of kickstart that. I don't think Michael Foster was going to be that high of a pick from the get-go. So I think, again, just trying to gain that level of experience is what all these guys are just trying to do. There's not – the popularity stuff matters to us because we're talking about these guys, but from the scouting standpoint, there's no secrets. A lot of these guys aren't buying the hype machine. They're not going to do it. They're gonna know what they want. They're gonna, Michael Foster type guys. There's a place for him. It just won't be early in his draft. I mean, I think his name will come across. He'll be a day 2 guy. Some of these guys will be day 2 no matter where they go. No different than the pick we just talked about with Ben Mathurin. So, I mean, with Sharp. I'm sorry, Shaden Sharp. It's highest upside at this point is all you're looking for. And now we're a few picks away from guys are going to playoff teams, and they ain't then it really gets tricky about who you're going to pick now. Do you get that guy that just fits what we want, or the guy we think down the line that can help us?
So let's talk about fit real quick with Dyson Daniels, because I do think that New Orleans is just about the perfect landing spot for him, right? Like, you got another guy that is long, that is switchable, that is good defensively, right? Another guy that is cerebral. I think that he fits really well with Zion and Brandon Ingram and CJ McCollum. He can kind of play a role there. He's a creator. He can create for himself. And New Orleans is known for being able to develop the jump shots that players have, right? And if you know that you're going to end up having to play a guy like a Herb Jones out there who is never really going to be a shooter, and you know that you want to be able to get Zion Williamson on the floor, and he's never going to be a guy that is going to be known for space on the floor, you need guys that can make shots. And that's the knock on Dyson Daniels right now, is whether or not he can make shots. So getting him into place that can develop that, I think, is a really good fit. So I like it. I don't know if he's ever going to be more than just kind of a role guy and a piece on that team, but do you really need someone? You don't need more than a role guy or a piece when you got Zion Williamson, who's 22 years old now, and Brandon Ingram, who I think is all of 20. He's old and he's 24 years old.
Well, another thing that Dyson Daniels can do, dude can guard.
He can guard.
Like, he can really, really guard. I don't know what it is with Australian point guards here lately. Maybe that's something we could circle back to. But Proctor from Australia is going to Duke this season, reclass. And then last year with Giddey, I don't know what it is. Down under, somebody asked Sam what's going on down there. But it's he can really guard. Him and Herbert Jones, you have these superior defensive players around the wing to go along with Brandon Ingram, to go along with CJ McCollum and Zion. And then I didn't even mention Jackson Hayes, who's all over the floor defensively. I like what New Orleans is putting together. It's a squad full of long, athletic guys that complement each other well.
Did you mention Trey Murphy?
Jose Alvarado to that. Add Jose.
Oh, yeah.
Add him to that mix of guys. That's a group of dogs that you just throw out there, and they're going to get after it and compete at a high level. I mean, Trey Murphy's the guy. I think he's the best shooter of the group. I mean, outside of C.J. McCollum. I mean, he's another year, a guy that came out of nowhere, needed some time, got some run this year. It would surprise me. He's going to get looks.
I love it. Tyson Daniels, dog. Brandon Ingram, dog. Jose Alvarado, dog. All these guys. Dogs.
I meant to ask Rob threw the dog comparison out earlier. I meant to ask, what breed are we talking? Are we talking like a Bichon Frise? Are we talking like a
for who?
Like a
pit
hey,
them dudes get after you though. They get after you. Herb Jones and Jose Alvarado, they will get after you.
There's a bunch of Dobermans.
Do. Yeah. Also, if you're sitting at home playing along with the Field of 68 After Dark, bet with us at Bet Rivers game tonight, which is not a real game. I'm making this up on the fly. But if you had Amani Bates getting a mention under 50 minutes tonight into the show, you can cash that ticket thanks to Mr. Rob Dauster. Kudos to getting Amani Bates.
I do what I can.
Draft love tonight.
Yeah, and the Spurs
the San Antonio Spurs.
They're taking Jeremy Sohan. Jeremy Sohan, number 9. I like it.
Wow.
I like it a lot. I think Sohan is going to be a really good pro. He does so many things well, man. He's the one guy in this draft class that is legitimately able to guard 1 through 5. We saw him do it against the team that made it to the national title. He was guarding Caleb Love, and he was guarding RJ Davis, and he was guarding Armando Bacot. Yes, he needs to develop it.
He's an irritant. Like, you need somebody on your roster that's going to get up underneath people's skin. Like, and then you got DeJounte Murray. Somebody help me out with that pronunciation.
DeJounte. I got yelled at. I called him DeJounte the other day, and someone yelled at me.
DeJounte. No, it's DeJounte. DeJounte Murray. I just want to make sure because I heard you say DeJounte, so I want to make sure. No, DeJounte, but like that guy was really talented. He's got length. He's kind of a Spurs guy, a little bit of an irritant. Like you said, can guard a lot of position. Jump shot's not broken. Didn't shoot great percentages, but long, athletic. He could put the ball on the floor a little bit. He's a nice player. I like that direction for the Spurs. And did they ever miss? Serious question.
They need some size, though. They need some size on the front line. I mean, they need some guys that can, I love their guard. They've been guard heavy the last few drafts, so they needed to get bigger.
Do we think he's a 5 in the league, or it just doesn't matter? Like, we know he can guard multiple positions, but like functionally, is he a center in the NBA, in today's NBA?
No, I'm just tired of all this Jacob Poeltl slander.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing. They do have a ton of really good guards, right?
They do. Yeah.
And what they really needed was because Poeltl's going to end up being I think it's after next year, he's going to be in a contract year. And I don't know if they're going to want to end up paying him. So the thought was you go and get a guy like Jalen Duren, you go out and get a guy like Mark Williams. But with the number of quality centers that are going to be on the board in the 20s, whether it's like a Walker Kessler or a Christian Koloko or some of these other guys, I think it makes sense to just take the highest guy on your board. Like I talked to someone close to that organization that basically said we're in talent acquisition mode right now. Yes, we want to get as many good players as we possibly can at right now. And if you think Jeremy Sohan is the best player available, I'm not going to disagree with you. If you believe in your guards to be, whether it's who's the kid from Kentucky they have, I'm blanking on his name.
Keldon Johnson.
Yeah, Keldon Johnson. You got DeJounte, and you got DeJounte Murray, and I'm a believer in Josh Primo finding a way to figure it out. And you have a bunch of backcourt players that you think are going to work, and you know that you're going to find a guy to be able to play the 5 and maybe replace Jakob Poeltl down the road. Go out and get the switchable piece. That all you got to do is teach him how to shoot. If you get Jeremy Sohan to the point where he's a 36% shooter, he is a guy that's going to help you win a playoff series. We talked about that earlier, right? His switchability. I love this pick.
Yeah.
They needed it because you talk about even before Primo. Remember the first round pick before that was Devin Vassell out of Florida State. That's in the rotation down there. And he was, year. I mean, so it made it hard for Primo to kind of get on the floor a little bit. So,
all right. And Shams just put it out there now. The Wizards are taking Johnny Davis at number 10.
Oh, that's one pick too early. Johnny Davis was such a Knicksy pick. Locked in on him to the Knicks. That's interesting.
Griffin's a Knicksy pick.
It's a Knicksy pick. It just is. Let's call it what it is. Look, Johnny Davis is a very good player. Again, a Big Ten guy. I'm a Big Ten guy. I'm very familiar with him. He was a killer in college. He was also wildly inefficient for long stretches of the college season. Now, some of that is the fact that his best running mate was Chucky Hepburn and Tyler Wall at Wisconsin. NBA spacing is certainly going to help him. I am curious, do we think this has any ramifications to a potential Bradley Beal departure? Not that you would draft Johnny Davis to step into his shoes, but I mean, Bradley Beal announced the other day that he's going to pursue free agency as an unrestricted free agent. They immediately draft a shooting guard. Feels a little interesting to me. T.O., you're giving me the eyes right now. You're like, no, Greg, come on. Johnny Davis, Bradley Beal, they don't belong in the same sentence.
Well, no, I really like Johnny Davis. I think he could be a good piece. He does some nice things off the dribble. He's made tough shots in college, and I think the NBA spacing is going to help his game out a little bit more. Whenever he got inside the paint, his percentages suffered. Or not inside the paint, but inside the three-point line, his percentages suffered. And a lot of that's because he settled for a lot of tough mid-range jump shots. He's somebody that can get to the paint and finish over the top, because I'm a believer in his athleticism, and I think his shot isn't broken, so he's going to be able to shoot good percentages there. He's a guy that needs to be, second, third option at his best. And right now, with Bradley Beal kind of in flux as far as what he's going to do, it makes sense for them to go after somebody around the perimeter that can score in bunches. That Bradley Beal may be out the door.
I think it makes sense even if Bradley Beal is there, if you buy into the idea of Johnny Davis being able to play off the ball. I don't know if I fully buy into that, because I don't know if I fully buy into the jump shot. My issue with him, RC, and we've talked about this plenty, is that I don't know if he's necessarily a 1, and I don't know if he's necessarily a 2. I don't know, but the issue is, I don't think he's a good enough shooter to necessarily be a full-time 2, and I don't think he's a good enough passer to necessarily be a full-time 1. And I don't know if he's a good enough guy to be on the ball to go get you 22, 23 points a game. It's just a primary kind of creator. So he's in this weird range where he's a very, very good basketball player, but to fit him into a situation in an NBA team where he can be effective, I don't know if he does any of those things well enough to be a great pro. Does that make sense?
No, it makes a lot of sense, but there's a role for him. I mean, what we do know is he worked his ass off, and he actually made Wisconsin fun to watch. I mean, he had us tuning in, watching, things that we didn't think. That's a hard job. He made us watch him, guys. So, no, I mean, I like him a lot. I think he rebounds well. I think he has good size. I've heard nothing but great things about him. His work ethic is unbelievable. I think
he guards too. Like he cares about defense.
I think he defends, he rebounds. I mean, there's always a place for guys like that. And it's not like he has his shots broken. He has a scoring ability. I mean, we know the guy can ability to score, but he's coming in, he's defending and rebounding at a level that, that's going to allow him to be in a rotation early, no matter what team drafts. So I think he's landed in a good spot. It'll be great for him. I mean, I think Bradley Beal is on the move, and if Bradley Beal goes into that Dame Lillard, category for me, I'd love to see him on a late NBA playoff stage run.
I would love to see him go to Portland and find a way to Portland to make it work. So think about that. One thing about Johnny Davis, he shot 39% from 3 his freshman year. I think the volume bothered him from beyond the arc, only right around 31% this season, but I think he was relied on a little bit too heavily. And if he's able to pick his spots, kind of be a second side attack guy where the ball moves a little bit, he's able to attack a closeout if he shoots it well enough. Michael Finley is somebody I compared him to simply because Finley went to Wisconsin. But if you could get somebody, they're about the same size. They need to play beside good players in order to have some success. Michael Finley was a very good player for a long time. I think he made one All-Star appearance, and I think it was because his mother was campaigning pretty hard for him to get some votes, and he ended up making it. But he was a very good player for a long time. They're similar in how they attack. Yep, you heard me right. I'm right on that one. You go back and look at the film. His mother did work. His mother got him to the All-Star game.
Yep. To your point, T.O., Johnny Davis this past season shot 39% from 3 on catch and shoot jumpers, and he shot 31% overall on jumpers off the dribble. So I think that, to your point, he could be very effective as a guy, or there's the potential for him to be effective as a catch and shoot guy. I'm not totally sold, but if you're going to try to convince me that he is, I don't know if I necessarily would argue the other side.
Rob, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, Rob, because I think a lot of the things you said negatively about Johnny Davis, he's not good enough of a shooter to be a 2. He's not good enough of a passer to be a 1. I think those things apply to Jaden Ivey, who you said you love and trust the shot of. What's the difference between Ivey from a shooting perspective to Davis, where you don't trust Davis, but you do trust Ivey?
Because I think that Ivey has a definitive NBA skill, regardless of whether or not those things happen, and that he is going to be like the most athletic person on the floor every time that he's on the floor. And if you put him in space, then you know he's going to be able to get to the basket. And that's not to say that Johnny Davis isn't athletic and isn't going to be able to do those things. But a lot of what he does is like, I'm going to get to my spot. I'm going to elevate over you. I'm going to score in the mid post. I'm going to score in the mid range kind of a deal. And to be clear, there's a world where Jaden Ivey doesn't end up working out. Like, I think that that's a little bit more of a high upside, low downside play, right, with Jaden Ivey. But I do think if Jaden Ivey ends up hitting, then he's a guy that could, because of the explosiveness, it just takes you to a different level when you're that kind of an athlete. And Johnny,
and he's going to have more
not
room to shoot too.
Yes,
because people are going to be so worried about the drive. So that's going to be a big thing. But if I had to pick between the 2 shots from an aesthetic point of view, I'm probably picking Johnny Davis, because I think Jaden Ivey's shot, it's end up right under his chin. It's kind of awkward.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
And for the record, Johnny Davis is sponsored by Taco Bell, and Jaden Ivey is sponsored by Chipotle. So that to me just screams you got to back Johnny Davis. So maybe I need to rethink everything that I just said. Johnny Davis, best pick in the draft. The Wizards just won.
Taco Bell?
I'm a fan. I'm a big fan of his. I think, you know,
I thought you were going to say I'm a big fan of Taco Bell, and I'm like, me too.
Oh no, I'm a big fan of his. I think he's a player, man, and I don't think he had a lot of help, and teams just started focusing on him, and he continued early on in the year. I mean, we had him as the player of the year for a long time, you know, in collegiately last year, because he kept answering the bell and didn't have much help. I think he wore down a little bit. Teams just really focused in on him, but he didn't have a lot of help as much as Jaden Ivey did. He had other guys on his team that kind of helped balance off the scoring. Travion Williams was a guy that helped him out. He just didn't have that other guy. So that doesn't concern me. I think he'll be fine. I think he'll be a steady player. I don't know if he'll be an all-star type guy, but I think he'll be a steady NBA player.
Greg, while the Knicks are on the board, why don't you or on the clock, why don't you walk us through let's reset the top 10 here.
Yes, absolutely. We can do this. First overall, the Orlando Magic selected Paolo Banchero. The Thunder at 2 took Chet Holmgren. The Rockets at 3 took Jabari Smith. The Kings at 4 took Keegan Murray. My Detroit Pistons at 5 took Jaden Ivey. The Indiana Pacers at 6 selected Ben Mathurin. At 7, the Portland Trailblazers selected Shaedon Sharpe. At 8, the New Orleans Pelicans selected Dyson Daniels. At 9, the Spurs selected Jeremy Sohan. And at 10, the Washington Wizards just selected Johnny Davis. So going through those 10 picks, gentlemen, while we wait for the Knicks here, 4 minutes still on the clock. T.O., give me a winner. Who's the big winner 10 picks into the draft?
I was sitting here looking. I think the Pelicans got some really good things going on. I really, really do. Outside those top 3 picks, obviously Orlando's a winner because they get the best player in the draft. And then Dyson Daniels at 8 just kind of fits the bill of guys that can play alongside of Zion. He could play alongside of Brandon Ingram. He could play alongside of CJ McCollum. This New Orleans Pelicans team, they've got some juice, and they were in the play-in, correct? This is a team that's got youth. They got scoring. If Zion decides to play this season, which is not guaranteed by any stretch of the amount, he might just decide not to play. But they have a lot of weapons, and if they're able to move forward in the manner that they're going, they're gonna be pretty formidable in the playoffs moving forward. I think it's important to point out it's 3 a.m. here where I'm at. Sun's coming up.
RC,
I worry how much
question.
he's going to get the floor.
Who's the winner?
I worry. I'm going to go with Keegan Murray. I think him going to SAC, he's going to go there. I don't think he's going to have a tremendous amount of pressure on him, and I think he's going to get shots. Some of these other guys, I think, can be overwhelmed with some of their situations. There'll be too much given, maybe trying to place on their plate. I don't know if.
RC, I don't mean to cut you off, RC. We got a special guest joining us here on the show. Let's see if we can get him in here.
Who we got?
You'll see. we'll vamp here
Come
for a
on,
second.
hang
But
it.
while this is happening, I'll tell you that I think the biggest winner is the Detroit Pistons. It's either the Pistons or the Rockets, right? Like if you're the Rockets, you got the number 1 pick at number 3. You got the number 1 pick at number 3. I don't think that you can complain about that. Maybe it's not the guy that you necessarily wanted, but I also love getting Jabari Smith at number 3. All right, so we got Scott Drew coming in here. I don't know if we can see him. Scott, you here?
I am here. Can you hear me at all?
Yeah, we got you. What's going on, man? We're live right now. How you doing?
Well, the Knicks just named their pick, so it's pretty loud right here. So
that's all right. We can hear you loud and clear. Jeremy Sohan going to the Spurs. That's got to be a landing spot that you're happy about.
Man, I love it. He can be with Popovich, and we all know one of the best coaches ever. Most of all, he's in Texas, 2.5 hours from Waco, so we get a chance to watch him play a lot. Love keeping him close to home.
Theo, go ahead.
Coach, how does he fit that Spurs organization just from a defensive standpoint? He did a lot of good things for you this season. What does he bring to that NBA organization that Spurs fans are going to love for the next 5 or 6 years at least?
Well, what they really value is someone that's fundamentally sound, someone that knows how to play. He's somebody that knows how to move the ball. The ball doesn't stick with him. Very unselfish player. And then he's in a really good defensive player for a young player. And just imagine after a couple more years, as he continues to develop, he can guard 1 through 5, definitely can become one of the more elite defenders in the league.
Coach, what part of his game do you think that'll surprise some people next year that people just don't know how well that he can perform at? What skill set would you say?
Well, Boris Dow played point at some point for the Spurs, and with Pop, and I know Jeremy, when Everyday John went down for us, Jonathan Chama Chachua, there were times where we would also, and we had a couple of our point guards got injured during the year where we put Jeremy at the point guard spot, and he ran the team and handled it and did a lot of things. Kendall Brown did it as well for us at times. But Jeremy, there's no weaknesses to his game. He's just very fundamentally sound. As a coach, you love playing guys that know how to play. It's kind of like you bring a big physical guy to a basketball program and the strength coach is really happy because it looks like he's doing a great job. When you have a player like Jeremy that's excellent defensively, 1 through 5, picks up schemes well, and offensively fits in and really knows how to play, it's easy to coach and makes you look good as a coach.
Coach, you already mentioned Greg Pop, one of the best coaches in the NBA, obviously at any level. He also played, in my opinion, one of the best coaches in college. That would be you. Talk about his coachability. What's he like as a kid?
Well, I think the actions always speak louder than words, and he came off the bench for us. So he's the 6th man, and he goes in the lottery, 9th pick. That's back-to-back 9th picks for the Baylor Bears, by the way. We like number 9. So anyway, very, very coachable, wants to get better, wants to learn. And obviously the Spurs aren't going to take anyone that's not coachable. But very few players, we all know nowadays age, I got to start, I got to get my shots, I got to play 30 minutes, this and that. Jeremy just wanted to help the team win. Whatever it took, whenever he played, he never complained when he came out. Nobody wants to come out, but yet you got to be a great teammate. And he always was.
Scott, I'll end it with this. Every NBA GM is listening right now, right? I need your pitch for why Kendall Brown has to get picked here. Give us the scouting report. Tell me why we got to draft him.
Well, you can judge on the basketball side of things, and he's elite in transition. He can become an elite defender. He's an elite cutter, but also he can handle it. He can pass it. But what people they miss on is he really is a great teammate. What I mean by that is he's really quiet, and he's one of those chill guys. And every player, every person in Baylor, they all loved him because he fits in with everybody. So he's going to add value to whatever locker room. He's not entitled at all. He's not about scoring. I mean, he can play a game and have 4 points and team wins and be all happy. So again, you're getting a great teammate with tremendous upside. And the NBA game will favor him because with the spacing rules, it allows him to get to the rim more. And we all know that your shooting improves as you spend time in the league. So he's going to work on it. He's going to get better as a shooter. And one thing every GM doesn't want to hear is you passed on a guy that became an all-star. I mean, Kendall's got the ability to be an all-star. So he has to continue to improve and develop, but he's young for the age, and he's got stuff you can't teach.
Well, Scott, listen, I appreciate the time, man. We always enjoy catching up. Go celebrate tonight, but you better not be breaking keto tonight.
I appreciate you. Hey, take care. Thanks for all you guys do.
All right. So while we had – go ahead, Greg. Sorry, I'm taking over hosting.
Let's
yell at me, man. You got to get me in line. I'm out of control over here.
Hey, I'm gonna let you rock, Rob. Role players got to play their role. That's what I'm doing right now. That's fine. Okay, listen to me though. We had a lot of chaos just happen in the middle of that Scott Drew interview. I'm gonna do my best to bring people up to speed. At 11, we had the New York Knicks. They've traded the 11th pick to the Oklahoma City Thunder, who have selected Ousmane Dieng, and the Thunder are sending multiple first-round picks to the Knicks in order to move up and select Ousmane Dieng. Now, the Thunder still have the 12th pick as well. They just acquired Ousmane Dieng at 11, and they are now still on the clock at 12. And Shams has reported that they are selecting Jalen Williams at 12.
What a story. I love this so much. First and foremost, I just want to let you guys in, look, a quick glimpse behind the scenes. None of us know a damn thing about Ousmane Dieng. We talked about it earlier.
False statement. How dare you? How dare you? Dude, I did my homework. How dare you? Ousmane Dieng, 6'10", fluid athlete, can really guard. Played at INSEP outside of Paris. This is the young academy. I feel like Fran Fraschilla. He was at INSEP, which is the young professionals thing in Paris. Moves to Australia with the next gen. He's a good player, moves really well, shoots the ball across his face a little bit too much, but has good length around the perimeter, can guard 2, 3, 4, shoots the ball well. Fine athlete, not a Kendall Brown athlete, but good enough to guard multiple positions in the NBA. That's why you pay me the big bucks, baby.
Tio, what's his romantic life? What's his dating life like, man? You know everything about the guy. What's he like off the court?
I mean, he's young. He's trying to keep his options open, but he can't keep his options open as far as what team to play for anymore because he's going to the Thunder, where he fits in fantastically because of his versatility and ability to shoot the rock, baby.
He's out there with 2 of his other French teammates.
That's it.
That's perfect, man. That's perfect. And he's not going to be ready for a couple of years, so they can still get Greg's boy Victor Wemby.
Wemby, baby. Wemby. Hey, the Thunder have always been 2 years away from being 2 years away. That's the motto. Bruno Caboclo, shout out to you wherever you are. Okay, I want to talk about the upside of these 3 guys that Oklahoma City has now collectively brought in. I mean, if you told Thunder fans prior to this draft, who again, I don't necessarily think Thunder fans are ready to compete. I think they are ready for one more year of building and one more year of waiting, one more lottery ticket here. They get Chet Holmgren, who even Chet skeptics might say he has the highest upside in this draft. They get Ousmane Dieng, who's a guy who was projected in the top 7, 8 range, falls to 11. They trade up, they get him. And then they get Jalen Williams, who, if you ask anybody, he's one of the biggest risers in the pre-draft process that we've seen. By my count, through 12 picks, they've got 3 of the top 5 upside guys in this draft. RC, do you agree with that?
I'm a big Jalen Williams fan. I'm glad to see those guys go up and get him. I had him ahead of some of the other guys that we had, the kind of 6'6", 6'8" guys. I think he's he's a hell of a player. I mean, he can score the ball. I thought he played really well in the combine. I think he kind of opened a lot of guys' eyes with the way he played in the combine. I mean, 7'2" wingspan. He has the largest wingspan of probably any perimeter guy that's in this draft. So I'm a big fan of his. I think that he's going now. Now we'll see some of these other. I think we'll start seeing a run on some of these 3 and D guys. But I had him right out of the top of the math, but I think he was the next best guy.
I think it's important to point out that Ousmane Dieng only shot 27% from 3, but over his last 13 games, he shot 36% and averaged over 12 points a game. So I feel like he's a guy that moving forward, he's pretty talented. But the Williams kid, it was something like he was the closest measurement to Kawhi Leonard since Kawhi Leonard because of the wingspan plus the hand size, plus being 6'6", 6'7", what have you. He was the closest thing measurables wise to Kawhi since Kawhi.
His rise has been unbelievable. You know,
Yeah,
like,
it has been.
When did we talk about him? We did After Dark every night during the season. When did we talk about him? I don't think we ever mentioned him once, one single time on the show.
No.
And
Maybe Sean Paul.
As I talked to scouts during the year, everyone loved him. As he came into workouts and he got the combine, he just shot up the charts. I mean, guys, everyone fell in love with him. So I knew he would go relatively high. I didn't know when, but everyone that I knew that he had worked out for told me they were impressed with him when he came into the building.
Yeah, it's the length, it's the shooting ability, it's the athleticism. You're drafting him to fill a very specific role, right? To do a very specific job. You're not drafting him necessarily because you want him to turn into you're not drafting him because you think he's going to be Kawhi Leonard. You're drafting him because you think he can be as Kendrick Perkins would put it, OG Ananobis.
So I think this is interesting for two reasons right now with this trade to move up and you select Ousmane Dieng followed by Jalen Williams here. First of all, it's objectively hilarious that the Knicks did not end up with Johnny Davis. They ended up with nobody. I mean, the only thing more Knicksy than taking the college star guard is to end up with nobody in the draft. Who knows what they're going to do? They did acquire supposedly other picks. They did not get the 12th pick. They've moved down. We'll see. The other thing fascinating to me right now is that the Charlotte Hornets are on the clock at 13. The Charlotte Hornets very much need a rim running, lob catching big to pair with LaMelo Ball. And we now sit in a spot where both of the traditional centers are falling down the board available to them at 13. The Hornets are coming back up at 15. So, T.O., I want to pose this question to you. If you're the GM of the Hornets, you want a center. You know that you can get one of the two of Jalen Duren and Mark Williams at 15. Who's the pick here at 13? Do you have a preference, or are you going elsewhere and then scooping up a center at 15?
If we're talking strictly 5-man, I love Mark Williams. 9'9", standing reach, can really block shots, extremely long, solid lob finisher, fits today's 5-man mold of somebody who's just going to get he's going to be able to lob finish, and he's going to be able to protect the rim at a high level. Jalen Duren, he's ready right now as well. Like, both of these guys are really good, probably more athletic upside, more offensive upside, but Mark Williams from a defensive perspective, I think, can alter the course of a game, and he's going to fit really well with LaMelo Ball also.
Rob, would you take someone who's not a center here because you know you can get one of the two at 15?
Unless you are absolutely in love with one of those two, right? Unless you think Mark Williams is infinitely better or Jalen Duren is infinitely better than don't. I mean, the Cavs aren't taking a big guy, and even if someone trades up and takes a big guy, unless you are absolutely in love with one of those two over the other one, I don't think that you take a big guy here. Go somewhere else. Phil, who are they? Is it out there?
Yeah, spoiler alert. They are taking Jalen Duren. They have made their choice between the two centers.
Look,
Jalen Duren
hold on. Let me just say this.
Did you win money?
No, but that is, think about this. Jalen Duren is the biggest physical freak in this draft, right? He is 6'11" with a 7'5" wingspan, a vert through the roof, and he's 250 pounds of solid muscle, right? He is a freight train on springs, and he is going to spend the next 4 years catching lobs from LaMelo Ball. Think about that. Think about how many ridiculous dunks we're going to see between him and Miles Bridges. They might suck. I don't know if they're ever going to be any good, but you know how many highlights we're going to get? They're going to be the most viral team in the history of the NBA. I cannot wait for this. I'm so fired up for this.
And if they get Mike D'Antoni as a coach, then really look out, because you know that's all they're going to do.
Could you imagine LaMelo with Mike D'Antoni just letting him do what he pleases? Oh.
He'll be in the MVP conversation with the numbers he'll put up in the Mike D'Antoni system.
I don't know why you're
actually wondering if they would
Detroit Piston Miles Bridges. I don't know.
I was actually curious. Would they move ahead? Would they go ahead and take Tari Eason for the reason that you just said? Like, they need a defensive player, and then you can get one of those two bigs at 15. So interesting enough. I wonder if they have something planned for that 15th pick.
So I'm going to play the speculation game again. If you can't tell, it's one of my favorite games on NBA Draft Night. I think that Charlotte picking the big at 13 means to me that they're trying to move the 15th pick. They're trying to get off the Gordon Hayward contract. They've already floated aggressively that they would trade one of those picks to package with Gordon Hayward to a team. I think if they knew they were making both selections, they would take someone and wait on the center at 15. They didn't do that. That might mean to me that pick is gone. Okay. We have trade buzz coming in.
Oh, so all right. So listen to
this. I'll repeat this. The Detroit Pistons. Read it, folks. The Detroit Pistons have acquired the 13th pick from the Charlotte Hornets. That's Jalen Duren. Did I not just nail that? I'm sorry. Did I not just nail that Charlotte's trading a big? They traded Jalen Duren to my team. We got our center. We got Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren. Oh my God. God.
Can I just?
But Greg, chill.
But he might be a Knick. That's not good. That's not good. We don't like that. Oh, somebody else take this. Give me like a minute to cool down. Somebody else talk.
Well, I will say this.
No, he can't go to the Knicks and you're sitting here walking on stage without announcing the trade beforehand.
Well, look. Yeah, Woj just saying that Jalen Duren is going to the Pistons. And then, well, here's the thing: if he goes to the Knicks, that's very weird because they already have Mitchell Robinson, and why would you want to pair that unless you're not going to re-sign Mitchell Robinson, which is unless you're not a very real possibility. If he goes to Detroit, we talked about this already. They need a rim running 5, right? It probably means that Greg's boys aren't going to end up getting DeAndre Ayton. If you have Jalen Duren going to that same spot and filling that exact same void, you're basically just getting an 18-year-old DeAndre Ayton. Go ahead, Greg.
Hey, okay, slow down here. DeAndre Ayton, he's 1A. He's priority 1A in Detroit. We will do anything for DeAndre Ayton, but continue. We like Jalen Duren too. Look, I can't be greedy, fellas. Look, I had to sit through Rodney Stuckey for like 7 years. That was my best player, okay? Excuse me for being a little bit excited at what we have building here. But yeah, you're probably right. That probably means no way. That probably means they're throwing a bag at Miles Bridges, though, because they do have doubled the cap space of any other team in the NBA right now. So it's got to go somewhere.
All right. Cleveland is taking Ochai Agbaji at 14. RC.
I think that.
When we did the draft profile for Ochai, I think that you said he should be a lottery pick. I think you were the first person I heard say that Ochai should be a lottery pick. He is officially a lottery pick. How does he fit in with Cleveland? We got to get Fanta on to celebrate this. I know Fanta's
because I told you he's the one guy we know he's going to defend at a high level. He has good size. He has defended at a high level. And he's going to shoot the crap out of it day one. Some of these other guys will probably have more upside, but he's going to come through the door day one, defending and knocking down threes at a high clip. Day one.
Oh, think about how well he fits in with Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, Karis LeVert, and then you add some more shooting and defense to that perimeter. Cavs are cooking with something too. These young teams, they might be stuck in purgatory, but at the same time, they look sexy on paper. And this edition of Ochai, I like it for the personnel they already have. He's ready-made. You know what he's going to be. I like it. Sorry, go ahead, Rob.
No, it is so weird and so uncomfortable for me to sit here and say that a Cleveland sports franchise is doing smart things and is doing good things.
That's
right. We got Darius Garland. We have Evan Mobley. I think Colin Sexton. I'm not sure if he's going to end up being there. He's got a contract thing coming up soon, right? But either way, you got Jared Allen there. I love Isaac Okoro, and now you're throwing in Ochai Agbaji, who's the perfect kind of role guy for this mix. Like we got that's a good team.
Isaac Okoro has been tearing up the Suns, by the way.
That is a good team. I think we have.
Let me jump in here. I'm gonna hop on. Everybody can hear me now, so I don't have to relay this through you guys. Shams has just tweeted: Knicks are acquiring Jalen Duren and moved him with Kemba Walker to the Pistons. So Kemba Walker is going to the Pistons, and Jalen Duren is going to be a Knick. So
this is an absolute emotional roller coaster.
I think we can all see how Greg is taking this one.
This is an emotional roller coaster ride.
Congratulations!
What are we doing?
Congratulations on getting the best point guard in the history of college basketball.
What are we doing? Is this 2011, Rob? What are we doing? Kemba Walker?
I don't know. Look, as
Coming
long
off
as
the
they're
bench. Coming off the bench. Good pickup.
I love him coming off the bench. Plus, you need a veteran presence, and Kemba's known as being a great guy, isn't he?
Wait,
Who has- who has
how
the
do
range.
Veteran guy that can score coming off your bench. I mean, that's a good look.
I know the trades pop off now. We don't have logistics, I assume, but how did the Pistons get involved in this? Duran's drafted what 13th to Charlotte, but he goes to New York, but the Pistons somehow get Kemba. Why are they involved?
I'm sure we'll figure
confused
it
by
out,
this.
Greg. We'll find it one way or another. We'll get.
That just
my brain
I'll
is
hop back
breaking,
on. I'll hop
producer
on.
David.
I'll hop back on to be the trade guy when I figure out the details.
That just
It's
means the Knicks are trying to free up money because they got a big trade
Yes.
coming in. They're acquiring a
they're
veteran guy, and they're clearing out salary because they're getting a trade to get someone on their roster as a veteran.
All right, here you go. Here you go.
Do you think it might be
Yes.
Braylon Johnson
Yes.
that they're getting? Someone Braylon Johnson, maybe? Is that I don't
Here you
know.
go. Here you, I
Or
got
that
some more
guy in
details
Brooklyn.
for you guys. You ready? Pistons are sending the Hornets the 2025 first-round pick via Milwaukee in the Duran trade. Detroit got that pick from Portland. What was that? 2 days ago when they traded Jeremy Grant, or last night when they traded Jeremy Grant, whenever that was. So that 2025 pick is now Charlotte's.
So
So
So basically, it's Kemba. I don't know. It's Duran to the Knicks, Kemba to the Pistons, and the 2025 Milwaukee pick to the Hornets.
The Pistons wanted Kemba Walker, is what just happened.
Pretty much, yeah.
And on that note, I'm going to need to take a quick walk, folks. I'm going to need to take a quick breathe. The Pistons just wanted Kemba Walker in our year 2022. Come on. Come on.
So where did Duran go now?
Jalen Duran's on the Knicks.
Duran's on the Knicks.
Which
basically means that Mark Williams is going to be the pick here, right? I mean, that's what that pretty much boils down to.
Yeah, Mark Williams has to go 15 now, I'd assume. Charlotte still needs the big, right?
Yep.
We would think. Charlotte's on the clock to reset. I'm sorry. I'm an emotional wreck. I apologize. Charlotte is on the clock at 15. And Mark Williams is
but
still
let's be
available.
honest here. If D'Antoni is the coach, does this change the pick? D'Antoni doesn't want a center. If you're going to get D'Antoni the job, D'Antoni wants another guy that can score it.
Yeah, but
he would be okay with getting a go ahead.
Well, I was going to say the thing about Mark Williams is that I think he's got a little bit more shit to him on the perimeter than people realize. And he ends up being a defensive anchor. And I think he could shoot eventually down the road. But here's the question. Would Jordan, I know RC, you've gone full on being a Duke fan now. We saw it at the Final Four. We saw it the whole time in the Final Four. You just sat there the whole time and talked about how good Duke was and how it's still a rivalry and how North Carolina didn't get it, right? But would Michael Jordan go all the way to that side? Would he take a Duke guy in the first round?
He needs to get some players. Like, let's just call that what it is. He needs some dudes.
They need
they've
got a couple of good players. They need a five. And Montrezl Harrell, he's been playing the five at 6'7", 240. Like, he's not a five man. Like, they need a rim presence.
You know who else is still available though? You know who else is still available? Another Duke guy, AJ Griffin. He's still on the board. You got another shooter, a guy that if he can put it together, like he's got issues defensively right now. All right, it's in. Shams just tweeted it. Charlotte's taking Mark Williams at 15.
There you
it's
go.
a good pick. It's the right pick.
It's a really good. It's the right pick for them. It's what they need. Is somebody that's going to be able to protect the rim right away. He's pretty good in drop coverage outside of guarding Caleb Love in the Final Four game. He's somebody that fits that team for what they have right now. And lob finisher, extremely long rim presence. They needed that. They got that. I think it's a good pick.
Mm-hmm.
I love him. I think he has a little more offensive ability than people give him credit for as well.
And it also tells you that Charlotte likes their wings and their guard play because they get rid of that 13th pick. They knew they wanted Mark Williams, so they're able to move that for a pick next season. I like the play by Charlotte, actually.
I want to make a little parallel here between another Eastern Conference team and what I think Mark Williams could do for Charlotte. This reminds me of when the Atlanta Hawks acquired Clint Capella a couple years back. They didn't have the lob threat for their superstar young guard. They had a bunch of these promising shooting wings, and they had the point guard. They needed somebody stable on the interior. And as soon as they acquired Clint Capella, quite frankly, it took them to another level. It took them to a team that could potentially win a playoff series as they did 2 seasons ago, and a perennial playoff contender now, a team that's going to make playoffs year in and year out. I love the pick for Charlotte. It was kind of telegraphed, but I think it's one of the best picks in the draft at this point. Kudos to Charlotte for getting it done. All right, we're now halfway through the first round. There are quite a few names. Rob, you just mentioned one. AJ Griffin has not been selected, a guy who some people thought could be a top 10 pick. Tari Eason is still on the board. Let's go around the horn. Everybody give me a name of who you think the best player available is at this point in the draft. Let's start with T.O. Who you got?
I really like Tari Eason from a defensive perspective. He fits a lot of different things as an energy giver. Maybe not in the PJ Tucker mold, but he has a lot of ability to change a game, especially coming off as a second unit guy. I really like Tari Eason. Ty Washington never seems to make a bad decision in a pick and roll, so you got to give him some credence there. There's still a lot of value here in this draft. AJ Griffin doesn't guard anybody, and I don't think he can get by anybody either. Anytime he put it on the deck, he was scoring over much smaller players in which he was physically superior over. I think his wiggle, if he showed some flashes, but I think he's just strictly a 3-and-D guy who doesn't want to D. So he's just a 3 guy. He's a lot like me. Like, were we playing defense? Absolutely freaking not. Were we shooting the rock? Absolutely we were. Like, he's somebody that's going to need to pick it up on the other side of the floor. But AJ Griffin, I could see him fall even more.
So there's been some more confusion on this trade. So apparently Jalen Duren is going to the Pistons. This has been the most confusing trade I think we've ever seen.
Hey, I'd like to look directly in the camera for just a moment. Woj, Shams, do your jobs, fellas. What are we doing here? It's 9:36 p.m. Eastern, and we have confusion on the trade line.
So I think that Kemba was just shipped off just to clear up cap.
So
I don't know what the Knicks are getting. So
that makes
Kemba
sense.
and Duren are both on the Pistons.
So that makes sense. That's why I damn near fainted a couple moments ago, because here's the thing. Detroit wanted to acquire a bad salary. They just wanted to bring an asset in to do so. Doing so with just Kemba without Jalen Duren would make zero sense. It's just a loss. Taking on Kemba to get Jalen Duren,
I think where the confusion is that the Hornets traded Duren to the Knicks first, and then he was traded to the Pistons all in one. Instead of it being like a 3-team trade, it was to the Knicks, and then the Knicks traded to the Pistons. That's where the confusion lies. So that's what we're going with for now. If that's wrong, I'll come back.
The Hornets got next year's pick.
They got the 2025 pick. 2025 pick.
Yep. Yeah, they got the Milwaukee pick. Detroit just acquired. Okay,
we'll get into Jalen Duren.
We'll get to
that on the Pistons in a second, because Atlanta just took AJ Griffin, so he is now no longer on the board. So
I love it.
Which is a great fit. A great fit. I would say AJ, and look, you guys correct me if I'm wrong here. I think AJ Griffin is the second best shooter in this draft outside of Jabari Smith. And when you put him on a team that already has Trae Young and already have some of these other pieces, all he really needs to do, especially early in his career, is catch it, shoot it, make those threes, and learn how the fuck to play defense, right? Because that's going to be his biggest issue. Is he a guy that lives up to what his physical tools are defensively? Or is he someone that is going to, look, let's just call it what it is. He was not great in isolation. He was not great on closeouts. He looked like he had heavy feet. He honestly looked like a dude that has been kind of injured over the course of the last 3 years, right? He's had knee injuries. I think he was a meniscus in the preseason this past year. So, RC, what do you think his upside is?
I think he has to ultimately be a 3-and-D guy, and obviously we talked about that. Him not being on the floor said a lot more. Them having, because we remember that situation, we talked about him not being on the floor in the national championship game. When Carolina had went small ball and they left Mark Williams out there. So, I'm a fan of his, but I do have my concerns about him. But I think he has a chance. I mean, he went to a situation where I don't know about this pick in the sense of they're going to make some trades. I think there's rumors that Collins is a guy they're going to trade him and shake things up a little bit. And perimeter shooting was not an issue with the Atlanta Hawks this year. So we'll see what happens. I think there's more to be done with him.
Go ahead, Tio.
Now, Trae Young creates whatever he wants for whoever he wants. He can shoot it at a high level. I'm not sure they really needed wings because they have Herter and some other guys around the perimeter, but guys that can knock it down.
The 3-point shooting isn't the problem. I thought they needed a secondary ball handler, a bigger guard that can kind of help initiate offense with them to kind of get Trae off the ball. I think one of the things is hurting Atlanta, that's hurting Dallas, is the usage ranges of those guys. They just dominate the ball so much. And, getting another guy that can help facilitate the offense, I thought would have been a bigger need than another 3-point.
But here's the issue with that.
Terry kind of deal.
Yeah, but here's what I'll say to that is, RC, one, you have some assets in the front court that you can trade to kind of bring in a veteran that can play that role. I don't think there's somebody in this draft that can do that. Who is the point guard that is on the board right now that can do that? Is it Jaden Hardy? Is it Kennedy Chandler, who, like, you're just bringing in another tiny point guard, right? Is it, you mentioned Dalen Terry? I don't know if he's necessarily that guy and necessarily an instant impact guy. My thing with taking AJ Griffin now is that you're getting a guy that has the potential to be a top 5 player in this draft. You're getting him at 16. And at the very least, he can play a role that will work on the roster that you have. You can move other people. Hell, you can move him if it ends up working out. I think that at this point, if it works out with him, he's going to be really, really good. I think he's got more potential as a guy on the ball than people realize if it all comes together. So I think you take the risk.
Rob, can I give you a name of who might be that guard that you posited? Maybe a Kentucky guard. Maybe Ty Washington. Kentucky guards.
I think it needed to be a wing.
It needed to be a wing with ball skills, is what I thought. That can put it on the floor. That was my big thing.
Yeah, I'm not sold on Ty. You guys love Ty. I'm not completely sold on Ty.
I love Kentucky guards. I don't love Ty. I love Kentucky guards, for the record. It looks like visually we might be down Mr. Oglesby here. He may, hopefully the Norwegian mob hasn't got him. It is 4:30 in the morning. They probably don't take well to NBA draft content at such an hour. Insanity. There he is. Tio, is all good? Are we safe? Are we okay here?
No, Tio might have imbibed a little bit too much and he needed a bathroom break an hour into the show.
Understood. That's fair. So who? Let's reset here. Atlanta has just selected AJ Griffin at 16.
Houston took Tari Eason. Houston took Tari Eason.
Wow, these picks are flying in right now. They just got on the clock. I like Tari Eason. I think he was probably the best player available. He might have been the best player available. A couple straight picks here. Houston, Jabari Smith and Tari Eason. Bari and Tari.
Mm-hmm. I will say this. I will say this too. When we did our mock draft show, we mocked Tari Eason to Houston, didn't we? Or am I making that up? I think I might.
Oh, you did. I remember it. You did.
Yeah, and we got crushed for that.
Really?
Yeah, they were not. The Houston fans were not a fan of us. Yeah, the Houston fans were not a fan. Look, I don't know how you guys feel about Tari Eason. I'm not convinced that he is the guy defensively that a lot of people think that he will be. He put up steals and he put up blocks and he's going to be a playmaker and he's an energetic guy. But if you go and you talk to some of those coaches in the SEC, RC, what they'll tell you is Tari Eason was a guy that you could go after, you could scout against, you could target. And that's a little bit of a red flag for me.
Oh, they've had some concerns, but he at times he was a willing defender. And at least if you can get a guy that's a willing defender, it matters. It helps you. So, in that league, no one is just shutting anybody down. But he needs to be a willing defender, and I think he'll do that. He has the size to be switchable parts, and I think it's a good fit for him with the type of team that they're putting together down there. They're getting the same side guys, and they got some big wings, some big guards down there.
All right, so we've got 3 guys I would consider wings. Maybe one of them is more guardy than the other 2, but 3 guys that have gone off the board in the last 4 picks between 14 and 17. Ochai Agbaji, AJ Griffin, Tari Eason. I want to go around the horn quickly. Rob, who's the best pro 5 years from now from that group?
I'm going to say Ochai. I'm going to say Ochai is a guy that that really thrives in that 3-and-D role. I think that we're going to look up and he's going to, I don't know if he's going to be quite as good as Buddy Hield, but I would not be surprised if he was kind of in that Buddy Hield mold. And I think he might end up being a better defensive player than Buddy Hield is, but he's going to be a very good shooter. He got drafted into a place where he can go out and do the job that he is best at. So I'm going with Ochai Agbaji.
RC, what do you think?
Ochai, I've been a big fan. I was screaming he was a lottery pick from the beginning. I think he is sure. You're sure about what you're getting from him, and that's what you're looking for at any point in the draft. I think a lot of these guys early are going off their potential. Now we're starting to get into positions of I need you to come in and be this guy, or I'm going to tuck you away and send you down as we get further down in the first round. But right there, he went to a Cleveland team that's up and coming team. I mean, they got some dudes that's legit, and so you add him in there day one. There's not a team in this draft that couldn't use a guy like that. That's a high level defender and a high level 3-point shooter, not just an average shooter.
Just to kind of play the devil's advocate, Tari Eason, even though you guys are down on his defense, he has all the measurables and he plays with a certain tenacity that there's a role for guys like that. If you look around the league, Montrezl Harrell, PJ Tucker plays like that, like dogs. Tari Eason, dog. So like there's room for guys like him. Will he be able to shoot it well enough? It's going to be tough to see, but alongside what they already have there in Houston with Porter and Jalen Green and now Jabari, you got to add a dog in the mix, especially on the defensive end. Those other three guys, Jabari will play defense, but it's his shooting that enamors you. With Tari Eason, it's his defensive potential that enamors you. So whether you talk about the most successful as far as scoring, I think it's Ochai, but Tari Eason could definitely carve out a role for a long time in the NBA.
And I will say this, I think the highest upside guy out of those three is AJ Griffin. If he gets the explosiveness back that he had when he was a junior in high school, if he can kind of figure out the defensive stuff, and if he ends up being the guy on the ball that we think he could end up being, there's a 20-point per game score in there, a 22-point per game score in there. We already said he's the best shooter in the draft, right? But the question is that explosiveness gone? Will it come back? If you get him healthy, will it come back when you get him in an NBA strength and conditioning program? I don't know.
It's scary though. He's also a guy. He's of those guys you just talked about. He also is a guy that presents some risk because he's all that team. He's surrounded by some dudes, and now you're going to go into a situation where now you're going to see. I don't know how well off the ball. We talk about off the dribble. What is he going to give you off the bounce? And I just don't know the fit. They got so many other guys there that are 3-and-D guys. I just think they're going to make a move at some point in this draft. We just haven't seen it yet. They're going to have to move some guys, or maybe they're just free agents that I'm unsure about.
They still have the 26th pick as well. I believe the second consecutive year that Houston has had 3 picks early in the NBA draft. I watched a decent amount of the Houston Rockets last year, more than I'm proud to say on camera. And last year, Jayshawn Tate was basically asked to guard 5 guys at once because nobody else on the floor was. Right. Now he's going to have a little bit of help. Tari Eason's going to go out there and do that. While they've got all the offensive guys, at least they'll be a little bit more balanced now. We shall see. All right. So as soon as that pick comes in, that leaves us to the 18th overall pick in the first round, the Chicago Bulls. T.O., what do you got?
Kemba Walker and the Pistons are expected to discuss a contract buyout. So you're like, you got to be feeling pretty good now.
You guys, do you know how good it feels to have a competent GM running your franchise? I can't express to you the relief that I feel in my heart of hearts watching. I mean, guys, what a rebuild. It's taken 2 years, and here we are. Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, no Kemba Walker. What a win. Cheers to that.
Right, so.
I mean, come on. All right, so Chicago, one of my Detroit Pistons Eastern Conference quote unquote rivals, you could say. It's been a while, but still. Chicago's coming up next. Looking at best available here, you got the 2 Ohio State guys. You've got Malachi Branham, you've got EJ Liddell. Down the board a little bit, you've got the point guards if you wanted to get into Ty Washington or Kennedy Chandler. Walker Kessler, a guy.
You've got Dalen Terry. You've got Dalen Terry, who's going to end up being the 18th pick.
Is he? Wow.
I like that fit there. I like him there. all of a sudden you have 3 guys in Zach LaVine and Lonzo Ball and Dalen Terry that can all kind of play that on-ball role, right? I don't know who's going to guard out of that group. Maybe no one. But you have 3 guys that make sense as kind of
Lonzo doesn't guard?
I don't know. Are
Lonzo guards. He defends.
Lonzo guards his ass off.
Lonzo guards. And that's the thing.
Yeah,
I think the question is
LaVine's
LaVine.
coming back. LaVine's coming back. He's going to sign a contract extension.
Yeah.
So
I
I like what you're saying, though, Rob. Sorry to big switchable.
Yeah, you have 3 guards that are switchable in that spot. So it makes sense to me. And look, I just think that Dalen Terry is going to end up being the next Mikal Bridges. To me, this is kind of like a Josh Primo pick, right? Where you have a guy that it would end up being lotto top 10 if they came back to school for another year. And now maybe you aren't getting the finished product, but you're getting that prospect a year early and you can develop them within your own organization. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I to be honest with you guys, I'm probably going to be really wrong on this one. I was never really high on Terry. I thought he was fine. That jump shot is, I know, I don't know exactly what his numbers were, but it's just, there's something wrong with it. Just off. Really good passer, but Lonzo Ball's a really good passer. You're going to play those 3 guys together. What are you going to trade Kobe White, which I've heard that's what they're going to do.
They're definitely going to make a trade. They got too many guards. Too many guards that need to play with the ball.
Yeah. And I think he's fine. I know a lot of people think the dribble pass shoot situation is where you need to go, but I don't think his shot's going to get any better. It's not sustainable all the way out to the 3-point line.
Yeah, we have another guest joining us here right now. We have Jason Hart, who is the head coach of the G League Ignite program here. Producer Dagan Hughes, let me know when he's available, when he's in here and ready to go.
We got Minnesota on the clock next.
Minnesota on the clock next at 19. Yep.
Jason, what's going on, man? Rob Dauster here. I got Terrence Oglesby, Randolph, Childress, and Greg Waddell. How you doing, man?
So far, let's talk about the favorite moment so far today.
Jason, you got us? What's good?
Yeah, what's going on, bud? How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. You look great. Look at you all dressed up.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it.
So talk to us a little bit about Dyson Daniels. He went with the 8th pick. He's going to New Orleans. I think all of us raved about that pick and about the fit with the Pelicans.
It's a great fit, great opportunity for him. Dyson is a team-first player. He's going to a really good team. And so, one of his main attributes is defense. And Willie, you can tell he stresses defense. And I think he's going to go in and do a good job and just be able to fit in with those guys. He's so humble. Whatever they ask him to do, he will do.
And the shooting, right? That's a good place for him to kind of develop that.
Yeah, no question. I think every young player that gets drafted is always shooting. I think sometimes we forget they're 19. So other than Steph Curry, I think every young player got to get better at shooting. But he still can contribute with his rebound, his assists, his defense, his intangibles. And I think that's what winning coaches have, guys that can do multiple things.
Hey, Jason, of the guys in the G League, I got a question. Who's the next guy you expect the name to be called? Jaden Hardy? Is it Marjon? Like, who's the next guy from the G League you think will get drafted here?
Man, well, I hope they go right behind each other. Obviously, we have 2 guys. We have 4 guys left. But, both of those guys are high-level wings. Jaden Hardy's more of a scorer, ball in hand. Marjon Beauchamp is more scoring, cutting out the balls. 6'6", long arms athlete. So hopefully they go right back after each other.
Hey, Coach, we talked about Jaden Hardy a little bit earlier today. Physically, he's ready to go. And you could see as the season went on, he became better and better and better and more productive. Is that a product of just being with the G League Ignite and his work ethic and just being able to focus solely on that? Or is he somebody that benefited because of that and wouldn't have been able to do as much in college, and that kind of presents what you guys are selling to young prospects, right?
Well, for me, coaching the young kids coming from high school, I don't try to box them in. So it's more of a process of them trying to figure it out as well, so they can be playing confident. I thought it took him a minute to adjust because he had a lot of high school tendencies. But as the season went along, like you said, he got better and better. he had high expectations for himself. He let some, normal pressure get to him, but he did get better. And he's a good player. He averaged 19 points, and he's only 19 years old. So I think he's turned into a steal now.
Hey, Coach, with Dyson Daniels, he's a guy who I think was off the quote-unquote NBA lottery radar for a lot of people going into the season. What is it about G League Ignite that allowed him to showcase what he has and put himself in a position to be drafted 8th overall?
Well, G League Ignite is the team and term is for young guys to develop. And so we're no different than how like Orlando Magic played all their young guys. They get to play through mistakes, but they don't get to play without playing with effort. And so, the confidence builds when you're going to play. Each of them played 30 minutes. They was playing against high-level competition. And, I try to put that in confidence in them that you're not coming out. You got to play through mistakes, be confident, and believe in your abilities. And that's what those guys did.
Coach, I got to ask you about Marjon Beauchamp. I think he's got the best story when it comes to this draft. It's certainly not your standard path to the NBA, correct?
Yeah, it's definitely not. He was a really high-level recruit, for college 3 years ago. We recruited him at USC. Our program, we offered him. And, he took a different route. And he ended up going to JUCO. And, Rod Strickland seen him after he went to JUCO and gave him opportunity with the Ignite. And he came in and made the most of his opportunity. And that's why he's here tonight in the green room.
Go ahead, RC.
I got a question for you, Jason. You've coached in college for a long time, and now you're coaching at the professional level. When we talk about when these young men are making this decision, for you, how do you feel in the balance of that objective? Do you think it benefits? It depends on the fit, or do you think a lot more kids should spend time at the G League? I mean, as far as the development and getting to the next level.
Well, man, I went to college, so I never tell a recruit that that's a bad place to go. I went there for 4 years, but we're starting to see a trend now. Randolph, the younger guys are getting drafted from Europe. So Sharif and Rod Strickland wanted to create a European style here in America. I mean, college is not for everybody. Sometimes you could be a lottery pick and pick the wrong college and end up being there for 4 years. And so here you just get the opportunity to play against grown men earlier and showcase yourself in front of GMs every night. And I think that's what they like to see.
Last one, Jason. Scoot Henderson, talk to me about him. How good is this kid going to be?
I think the sky's the limit for his talent. He's a very hard worker, fearless. He has a pop and a burst, kind of similar to Derrick Rose. And he's a gym rat, and he's unafraid to compete. And I think that's why people rave about him so much.
Well, listen, man, I appreciate the time. I appreciate you jumping on with us here. Live from the green room, we can hear the draft announcements in the background. So I appreciate your time, and, we'll be rooting for Jaden Hari and Marjon to get picked off the board next.
Hey, and guys, don't forget about Michael Foster and
we talked about him plenty.
We did.
We got 4. We are rooting for it. So, it's still more to come. But I appreciate you having me on the show.
Thanks, man. Go enjoy the night.
Guys.
Go have fun.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Coach. All right.
So we got a trade. We got a trade. Go ahead.
We have craziness right now. We have the Minnesota Timberwolves, I believe 19th overall, are trading this pick to the Memphis Grizzlies, and the pick is in for Memphis. It's Jake LaRavia from
19.
Wake Forest. ACC, a couple ACC guys here. Adina Deegan himself, Randolph Childress.
Wow.
RC 19th overall for Jake LaRavia.
He's happy, baby. Let's go.
He's got his mouth shut. Is what he's got. 19th overall for Jake LaRavia. RC, come on.
Listen, the guy, he's Mr. Do It All. He shoots the ball well. He handles the ball well. Willing defender, underrated defender. We talked about it. He was just a guy that he started. T.O. spoke on this earlier. When they confirmed his age and you realize how young he was, it was like, wow, you was really blown away and impressed with him. So I'm not surprised with the pick. You started hearing things about him, and I know Steve Forbes is kind of laughing because he said that, he'd better have gone first round, for not coming back to school. But you got to be happy for him. I mean, it's a good pick. Yeah, it's. I was curious what Minnesota was going to do. I thought they were going to draft one of those 3-and-D guys, considering you hear rumors about them making a trade. But I'm really happy for Jake. I mean, that's a big time. Another Deacon drafted with the 19th pick.
Hey, I'll say this. I'll say this. He did leave college, but he'll be hearing from college because that booster club is going to come calling real quick. So, let's 19th pick. That's pretty good. Hey, Jake LaRavia is a good player. Spent 2 years at Indiana State, then went to Wake. And to be honest, RC, I thought he should have shot the ball more than what he did. He really talented kid, knows how to play on the open floor. He's a grab and go guy. He can get it off the rim and he can initiate the break, and he's going to make the right read. And he fits around this team full of super athletes with Ja Morant and some of these other guys. He's going to be able to space the floor. I'm buying his shooting. He should have shot more, and he's going to have more opportunities there in Memphis. And quite frankly, guys, they're going to be wide open because there is a lot of guys that put pressure on the rim for that Grizzlies squad. They needed some guys that could open it up. And not only that, he's multifaceted, can guard multiple positions. He's more athletic than I think people realize. Jake LaRavia is a really good pick for Memphis, and a lot earlier than what we all thought he was going to go.
We made it 2 hours into the show before somebody dropped a deceptively athletic reference on here.
I didn't say deceptively.
I will say this.
He's white. That's what that means. It means he's white.
He's white and he can jump. Memphis traded the 22nd and the 29th pick. They traded two first rounders to move up to be able to go get this guy. And I think part of it is because they don't want to pay for 2 first round guaranteed contracts, but it also tells you how much they value this dude, right? If you're trading up to go get that guy, you think that he is the piece that your team needs. And Memphis is in the playoffs, man. Memphis pushed Golden State in the playoffs. So he's coming in with the expectation that he's going to be an impact guy right away. Like you're Memphis is not drafting him for the future. They're drafting him because they think that he can contribute right now. And if you're giving up 2 picks for a guy that can contribute right now, I mean, look, they got to think very, very highly of this dude. RC, let me ask you this. I made this comparison when we did the Jake LaRavia draft profile. I said that I think that he is going to be a better Denny Avdia. Is that crazy?
No, I mean, it's listen, I mean, it's so unknown because again, he came from Indiana State. You heard stories about him, and then having a chance to go in the gym and having a chance to see him work out. You saw it, and like T.O. said, you wanted him to shoot a little bit more. I think once he adjusted to the game and things slowed down for him, he was obviously the guy. You know, Alondas Williams got a ton of credit, but he was invaluable with that group. He struggled a little bit defensively guarding. He got some foul trouble there. I think he's a willing defender, but he shoots it well. He passes it. He's going to snatch it and push. He's going to fit in well with that group. I mean, he's a guy that's coming in with that level of talent surrounding him. I mean, he's going to be in that running of guys maybe for Rookie of the Year because that team is going to make a run. They're going to be deep. That team's going to make a run. And just because
Rookie
of success,
the Year?
Yeah, I think he'll be – well, let me say that all-rookie team. I don't think he'll get enough numbers to make, Rookie of the Year, but he'll be on the – he has a chance with that group to be on the all-rookie team.
I mean, look, I was going to say, I respect you too much. I love you as an analyst way too much to allow you to say Jake LaRavia could be the Rookie of the Year on camera.
Yeah.
Well, I'm in the conversation.
Yeah, we were all coming for you. Every single one of us was like, hold on.
He won't have the numbers, but he'll get the opportunity because he's not a guy you're going to focus on. He's just going to sleek in the radar and make shots and be, and have enough numbers where he'll be like the all-rookie selection. I don't think he'll get the numbers to be Rookie of the Year. I misquoted that, but I think he'll get some consideration with the talent. Like he's being put in arguably now as good of a situation as any of these guys have been drafted.
All right, here's an interesting thing. We talked about how many good guards San Antonio had. You know who they just drafted at number 20? Malachi Branham. Look, that dude cannot guard. I don't think that he could guard Greg right now. But he might be.
Greg, first of all, Greg's got moves. So let's not just throw. Yeah.
Greg's also taller than people realize. Greg's a solid 6'1", so it's not, either way, Malachi Branham, dude's a bucket. Greg, you're a Big Ten guy. We're going to you first on this one.
Oh, I appreciate it, sir. I really love Malachi Branham. And actually, selfish plug here for the Field of 68 newsletter that is dropping daily. You can subscribe to that. I listed Malachi Branham for our little roundtable as a guy who I wish we actually would have seen come back to college, because I think that if he came back for one more year at Ohio State, I think everyone a year from now would view him very similarly to the way we're viewing Johnny Davis, or the way we're viewing, maybe not as high as Jaden Ivey because he doesn't have the athleticism and the eye-popping, just flash off the court type stuff. But I think this guy would have been a bona fide top 10 pick if he was a first option full time for a full season in college. All the promises there. He's super skilled. I don't think there's a player in the country, quite frankly, who came as far production wise from game 1 to game 30 last season as Malachi Branham did. For the last month and a half of the season, he averaged 21 points a game on a team that he was the second option to EJ Liddell on. I love the kid's upside. I'm quite frankly a little surprised he fell to 20. I think he would have been good value at the end of the lottery, but I love it for him as a Malachi Branham fan. I think it's a really good fit in San Antonio.
Every time I watched Ohio State play going through the season, like I fell in love with the kid more and more and more. It was just like he was just kind of gradually grasping concepts, finding out what his teammates were good at, and man, the kid can score it. Kid can freaking score it. Now the fit worries me a little bit as far as San Antonio is concerned because they have so many guys that are fit that young, I can score a little bit mold. So it's going to be interesting to see how that works out.
I don't know how you're going to get on the floor without defending for Pop. One, but my concern is the amount of guards. I mean, their first round draft pick for the last 4 or 5 drafts have been guards. I mean, we talked about, Devin Vassell. We mentioned, when we talked about the Jonathan Murray before. I mean, Josh Primo last year.
And Keldon Johnson, yeah.
And Keldon Johnson prior to that. And let's not forget Lonnie Walker in there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just been a long list of these, and they're all kind of the same. So, and then last year, even a second round pick with Joe Wieskamp, was just a shooter, but he's coming in there. So, I don't know where he fits early on with them, and maybe they'll just stash him away. He'll go down to Austin, maybe to the G League, or maybe
what I will say is this, RC, to that is one thing that San Antonio is good at is taking advantage of the G League that the G League the Austin Spurs. They're willing to send guys down there and just say, hey, look, you need to learn how to do these things. We're going to send you there. You're going to get better at it. And if you do, then we're going to bring you up. I think we saw that with Josh Primo last year, right? They sent him down. He spent some time in the G League. And then once they realized that their season was over and said, hey, look, you've been doing well. We're going to bring you up. Now we're going to start running stuff through you and throwing you in the mix and seeing what you could do at this level. And it worked out pretty well for him. And it's gotten to the point we were all, I think a lot of us are sitting here like, yeah, you know what? Maybe Josh Primo was not the craziest pick in the entire world, which is what some of us, John Fanta specifically believed when that pick was made last year.
Big move. Big one just got drafted.
Christian Brown, number 21.
Wow.
Like, hey, I made some of that Jabari money back, baby.
Okay, while Dauster celebrates his first financial win of the last 3.5 hours, let's do a quick reset. We are now into the 20s of the NBA draft. And by the way, while we're getting into the 20s, I just want to do a little hype up here. We've got John Hollinger on Twitter right now saying he's hearing rumblings of some crazy moves that could happen in the 20s. So again, building the hype. It seems like everyone's really doing good PR for the draft, but stay tuned. To reset, picks 11 through 20. Ousmane Dieng went 11th. Jalen Williams went 12th. Jalen Duren went 13th. Ochai Agbaji 14th to Cleveland. Mark Williams 15th to Charlotte. AJ Griffin 16th to Atlanta. Tari Eason 17th to Houston. Dalen Terry 18th to Chicago. Jake LaRavia 19th to Minnesota, but then flipped to Memphis, and Malachi Branham 20th to the Spurs. I also did not say the 3 teams for the first 3 picks because there was too much chaos in those 3 picks. Quite frankly, I don't remember while looking at them. And now Denver's on the clock at 21, and is it Christian Brown?
It is.
That's
confirmed. Christian Brown. Confirmed. Mm-hmm. Christian Brown. That is good for Christian Brown. How about that? Fits in pretty well with that team. Can shoot it. Tough as shit. Will dunk on your head. Like, I love the kid, but wingspan is less than stellar. But other than that, like, good size, guards pretty well, can shoot it, and is really athletic, good in the open floor. I like Christian Brown. I loved him. I loved watching him play at the Final Four.
I think he makes a lot of sense at this spot.
Talks more shit than Ron
talks
Dauster.
so much shit.
Yeah,
I don't know. He's on RC levels of running his mouth. which is great. He's intense. What I will say is this: you put him on a team, you got Jamal Murray coming back, right? You got Nikola Jokic. You got, I don't know if Michael Porter Jr. is ever going to be alive, but there's a lot of really talented pieces on a team.
But we'll give him $100 million.
Yeah, we'll give him $100 million. But the Nuggets are a team that, like, in theory, if it all comes together for them, has a roster that could make it to the NBA Finals, right? Like, they could be the best team in the West. Let's just assume things fall, maybe Golden State with their eight, whatever it is. I think that it's not unrealistic that Denver can make a run at winning an NBA title. I think that Christian Brown is a guy that can step in and contribute right away. He's going to space the floor. He's going to work defensively. He's got good measurables. I think that he is a fit to play a role and do a job on a roster that is a contender. I'm not saying he's going to walk in there and play 30 minutes as a starter, but he could play 15 minutes, shoot 35% from three, and not get blown up defensively. And you put somebody like that on one of these teams that's going to be contending, he's going to help.
Hard to argue.
Yes.
I don't disagree with you. I mean, I think they're hinging their bet on Michael Porter Jr. A guy that they was expecting to space the floor, and they just don't know if he's going to be available, if he can help them or not. I think Christian Brown's coming in there day one is going to be able to make shots. So you're going to be able to get that. Again, their whole season is going to be predicated on a healthy Jamal Murray coming back. Mm-hmm. If they get him back, they got a chance to make a run. We know they're going to be make a playoff run. They need to take that team needs to take another step.
You know what really just happened? Denver sitting at 21 and panicked. They started sweating as soon as they saw Memphis snatch up the first good white wing on the board. They had to get the second. They had to. I mean, we're running it. What's next? Brady Manick going 23rd to Philadelphia? Maybe, right? So that leaves us, we've got Memphis coming back on the clock now at 22. Memphis, who, I mean, they just acquired.
No, that's
gone. Okay.
So
So it's Memphis, to Minnesota. All right.
Memphis is on the clock, but it's Minnesota's pick.
Got it.
This was an easy trade.
Right.
You should be able to.
Winners.
I know
Minnesota
that you're still drunk.
Winners. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say I know that.
No, I'm drunk off Jalen Duren right now. I'm very drunk off Jalen Duren. That's true. So this is the playoff ready Minnesota Timberwolves. The hugs in the crowd, the pump up. This is a win now team, according to Patrick Beverley and according to Karl Anthony Towns. Who's the win now guy on the board? I feel like a couple win now guys just got snatched up, right? Is this maybe EJ Liddell territory to Minnesota?
It might be Ty Washington territory, because I've heard D'Angelo Russell might be on the move. So it might be something to where they bring him in, kind of a secondary ball handler.
I think Wendell Moore is a guy as well.
Yeah.
I like Wendell Moore.
You know what I think is interesting, guys? I think it's interesting that we are seeing role players go off the board, guys that maybe didn't get the kind of hype that other people got in college, whether it's Malachi, whether it's Oshai, whether it's Jake LaRavia, while some of these 5 stars, these lead guards, Kennedy Chandler, Trevor Keels, Ty Washington, Jaden Hardy, they're still on the board, right? They're still waiting to hear their name called. And I think that tells you a little bit about what this league is, right? If you're going to be,
tells you a little bit about the scouting services.
Well, no, because
they fell to shambles when Goodman left. They fell to shambles when Goodman left.
I think what it says is that if you are going to play that point guard position, right? If you're going to be that guy, you have to be incredible at that job, right? You have to. There's only 60 starting point guard roles, or 60 point guard roles, starters or backups in the NBA. Whereas there's 150, 200 guys. Everybody is looking for someone that's 6'7" that can dribble, shoot, and pass.
Yep. Because you're going to struggle in the NBA playoff wise. I mean, Boston made a run because they got. The smallest guy on the floor was who? Everybody was 6'5", 6'6" or better, and they just switched everything. So you can run all the sets you want at that level. You get to the finals. Golden State, what do? They switch everything. So you're going to have guys that can switch and that can make shots. And there's not a lot of guys at that level that can really break guys down off the dribble. Boston, perimeter guys struggled with that. they struggled at the end. Tatum wasn't the same guy at this standpoint. Steph was elite at doing that. So there's no Steph Curry in this draft, but you're going to have to wait and see. I mean, and teams are all valuing that 6'6" to 6'8" because you got to come in and defend those guys. You need those size to do it.
So,
all right.
The
The
pick is
details
in.
are in of this trade. Timberwolves are back on the clock now at 22. They've also acquired the 29th overall pick in this draft. So 2 picks in the first round going to Minnesota so that Memphis could get Jake LaRavia. And not only that, but the pick is in for Minnesota. And it is the National Defensive Player of the Year. It's Walker Kessler. Interesting fit on a team that has Karl Anthony Towns. Although, I mean, Cat can certainly step out and shoot it. I'd be curious to see if the plan is for those two to ever play together in crunch time of games. But I can't imagine it would be. RC, you're shaking your head.
Together, no. I mean, maybe you needed some size as a backup, or maybe you felt you needed some toughness. I mean, again, he's one of the best shot blockers, if not the best shot blocker in the draft. And you wanted to have someone there for some rim protection, but he's definitely some guys that's limited offensively to the paint.
Well, he's got a little bit of outside game too, to where he might be able to space it out. I mean, looked fairly, I'm not going to say overly comfortable, but looked fairly comfortable taking him from 3 when he played.
Just wasn't making them.
Yeah, he just wasn't making him. So you wonder, like, is that ever going to fit? Like he looks comfortable doing them. We'll see. But the dude blocks everything. So, Karl Anthony Towns, is he a great defender?
No.
I mean, no. So you kind of give a yin to Karl Anthony Towns yang, bring him in there, have him guard some things. The only problem is he doesn't move that great when he's forced to play out on the perimeter. So he's going to have to chase down block a lot. And he was able to do that in college. When he gets to the pro level, that's a different story, as RC knows.
So I think if you're trading out of a pick to acquire an additional pick, that's fine, right? But if you're trading to have your first round prize be Walker Kessler and your roster already includes a best player at center, that must mean to me that you feel very comfortable that Walker Kessler is going to be able to hold his own defensively against the Joel Embiids of the world, against the Anthony Davises of the world, right? Otherwise, I can't imagine you take that guy as your prize pick this round.
I think he's not going to be guarding those guys. He's going to be guarding the backups.
And if he is, he's 6 fouls. You need to have 6 fouls at that position. And because right now the problem, all these guys are getting drafted now, and you're going to playoff teams. There's not a kid on this board that's going to any of these teams right now that's right now ready to come help those teams in the playoffs. As we get further and further down in the 20s, now we're into the first round teams, and then we're going to get to the second round teams and go further and further. I mean, how many of these kids are going to be able to come in at that point and help them?
So the number 23 pick just went off the board. It's Philadelphia traded DeAnthony Melton, or traded the 23 pick for DeAnthony Melton to Memphis. Memphis just picked one of our favorites, David Roddy from Colorado State.
Wow.
I think this is a little bit of a reach. I think you could have gotten Roddy in the second round. 2, I love this. I absolutely love this. I think that Roddy he does so many things well, especially on the offensive end of the floor. First and foremost, like this dude, if you guys haven't seen him, he is 6'4", probably about 250 pounds, and one of the more explosive guys. Big body guy, but he's athletic. He can move. The issue with him has been intensity and toughness on the defensive end of the floor. And Memphis is one of those places where you're going to go in and you're going to learn how to be intense and you're going to learn how to be tough on that end, or you're not going to see the floor. So I think this is a great landing spot for him because like a Jake LaRavia, like a Dillon Brooks, like some of these wings that they have, I think he can step in and do a job. And I will say this. I've gotten to the point where if Memphis drafts a guy after they took Xavier Tillman, after they took Desmond Bane, after they ended up with Dillon Brooks, if they draft a guy, I'm just going to go ahead and say, look, they're going to be a good player. That's going to work.
Well, he shot 44% from 3 too. I
think you're looking at a team
still around.
But I think you're looking at a team that's trying to beat one team. and they're building a roster to try to beat Golden State. They want as many switchable pieces as possible. So they're trying to say, hey, we know what's coming. We know we're up against. We were right there. You know, they had the injury to Ja Morant. Some guys didn't play well. They want to get as many guys that can kind of have that. That's the motto, you know, of what they're doing. I mean, having those guys to as many, you know, interchangeable parts as possible. And I think that's what they have in mind in this draft is add young pieces that can help us compete against the Warriors.
So I don't hate that as a plan. I guess my question would be, is David Roddy the best available guy that fills that need? Like, would you rather have David Roddy or like Blake Wesley or like Nikola Jovic, the overseas, or like I feel like there are better players that were valued higher that could do that than David Roddy, trading in to get him 23rd overall.
Well, I would have preferred EJ Liddell for that spot personally. I think EJ Liddell is he's Grant Williams. He's PJ Washington. He could be a small ball five that can shoot and space the floor. I think that he has more defensive upside than David Roddy does. But I mean, if you're watching ESPN right now, you can see these highlights. Like, that dude is explosive. He can put the ball on the floor. Offensively, it's there for him, right? The issue for me was, what's he going to be on the defensive end? And like I said, I think you get him into a place like a Memphis or get him into a place like a Miami, and they're going to learn how to do what they need to do on the defensive end. So I love the pick. I love the fit. I hear what you're saying, Greg. And again, I do think it's a little bit of a reach. You're probably leaving a little bit of value on the table, but like, what is that thin value when you just make sure that you get the guy that you want, right? Like, if that's who you've identified as being the guy that is the right fit, then if you're making a little bit of a reach, and if you're giving up someone like a DeAnthony Melton to get there, or you're trading 2 draft picks to get it, I think that it makes a lot of sense.
I think the other thing lost here, though, is like DeAnthony Melton's a good player. Like, if we're talking like impacting winning, I think DeAnthony Melton does that more than David Roddy will next season. Maybe I'm wrong with that, but I'm a little surprised to see them basically do a 1-for-1 with a rotation guy like Melton, who did some really good things, for a guy with a second round value like David Roddy.
When is I should probably know this, but when is Melton's contract coming up? Because that might have something to do with it. I'll look it up right now. You continue to vamp, Greg.
Yeah. So I mean, I sound like I'm coming off as a David Roddy hater. I'm not. I just don't really see the value there for them at that spot. And I'm quite frankly, I like a lot of those names I mentioned as both win now guys with, like you said, EJ Liddell with Blake Wesley, but also I think there's upside picks on the board I'd rather have than David Roddy. Like, I personally would rather take a lottery ticket that Jaden Hardy works out than have David Roddy. And I think, like, we're looking at now a run of contenders who are coming up here. And you said it, RC, they're trying to go toe to toe with the Warriors. Let's hope they didn't leave the guy with higher upside to the Warriors, who might end up scooping a guy who's higher impact even sooner, potentially.
Yeah. DeAnthony Melton has 2 more years at $9.5 million per left on his contract, which isn't all that much for a guy that can do what he does. But and you're getting Danny Green back, but we'll see what ends up happening, whether or not he gets bought out. But still, it's yeah, that's true. Yeah, I forgot about that.
All right, so this takes us to 24. One of the teams I mentioned that is the quote unquote contender, Milwaukee, on the clock. And Woj has just announced who they will pick. It is another G League Ignite guy. It is Marjan Beauchamp, 24th overall.
Dog,
Tio, tell us about him.
Dog, long, focuses on all the other things. Doesn't worry so much about scoring, but man, it feels like Milwaukee. He just kind of fits.
He fits Milwaukee.
He fits them perfectly. Man, it's crazy to think their best player and arguably the best player in the NBA thrives off garbage, just because he's much tougher than everybody else, and obviously he's a great passer and he's improved as a shooter. But Giannis does all those little things, and Marjan Beauchamp, while he's not Giannis, obviously, he's somebody that's going to thrive doing the other things and playing a role and being a guy that can come in and provide energy. And like you said earlier, Rob, when we were talking to Josh, like, what a story. JUCOing it, decides to take a year off, goes to JUCO, then Ignite, and then turns himself into a first-round pick. Good for that guy.
Yeah, no one has the path that he's had to get where he is right now, and I love that. I love that he bet on himself, and I know that he's one of these guys. He hasn't had the easiest run of it. He hasn't had the easiest life, and I am happy that it all worked out for him, because there was a point in time where we had real questions about, like, okay, is this the right decision for him to make? Is he getting the right advice? Is he making make good choices, right? But I think that this has shown that you don't need to necessarily follow a strict path to get to the NBA to make it work. And I'm glad that it ended up working out for him, because he's going to make enough money to change generations of his family's life. And so it's always nice when you see that happen. And look, I'm happy for him, man. I think this, like you said, this is a great fit for him to go to. Go ahead, Tio.
No, I've already gone. RC can go. He fits perfect.
No, we said it. He fits as well as any, pick in the late. I think you'll find late in this first round. I mean, he's going to do things without the ball. He's not going to dominate the ball. He cuts well. He moves well without it. With the things he's going to have to do to crack the rotation of a championship team. I mean, a lot of that's what we're getting into right now. And you want a team to draft you raw fit so you can kind of slide in right now. I mean, some of these guys
means to him, man. Look, I don't know if you guys are watching ESPN right now, but he's in tears. Like, he is actually sobbing in the green room. Oh man, that makes me so happy. Good for him. Way to go, Marjan.
Congratulations, Marjan. That is awesome. How surprised are you that Jaden Hardy is presumably going to be the third G League Ignite guy taken in this draft? If you would have told us that 12 months ago,
right?
There's somebody out there that lost some money, probably at Bet Rivers, betting Jaden Hardy a year ago to be the first G League guy to be drafted in this draft. I guess it's not surprising tonight, but it's a little surprising to actually see it play out to me that Hardy's still on the board.
It's a perfect example of what we talked about before, right? If you're going to be an on the ball, score the ball, point guard, lead guard kind of a player, you have to be so incredibly fucking good at what you do, right? You have to be one of the 30, 40, 50 best in the world at your job. Whereas if you are someone like a Marjan Beauchamp, or you are someone like a Dyson Daniels, and you can fill a role beyond just being a scorer, and this is probably a lesson for a lot of young kids and young players and young athletes to kind of learn, is that if you can just go out there and do a job at the absolute highest level, then you're going to find a way to play in the NBA. Take Kevon Looney, right? Remember when he was a top 10 recruit, RC? I'm sure that you guys recruited him at some point, right? Like, this dude was a 6'11" versatile center that had the hype of being like, okay, he's coming in, he's going to go to UCLA, and he's going to be a guy that's going to score 18 points a game. He's going to get 10 rebounds a game. He's going to end up being a star at the next level, someone that can play different, whatever it is. And now he's playing with the Warriors, and he's going to end up getting himself a really big deal when he gets this extension, because he goes out there, he defends, he rebounds, he blocks shots, and he just does a job. And I think that kind of shows you what you need to be able to do. And when you are a Jaden Hardy and you're a 6'2" scorer, how many jobs are you able to do on a basketball court? You're basically able to score, right? Whereas someone like a Jake LaRavia can do 3 or 4 different things. A Christian Brown can shoot it, score it, pass it, defend.
Well, look at ball dominant guards. How many have been drafted so far?
None.
That's right. So like ball dominant
Ty
guards.
Washington, Kennedy Chandler, Jaden Hardy, they're not there. They're not drafted.
It's not in vogue right now. Like, you got to be able to catch it, get rid of the basketball, do something off the catch, because that's where the NBA is trending. That's the reason you see somebody like Benedict Mathurin. He's doing well. Jeremy Sohan, he's able offensively, he's a ball mover. Guys that do those type of things and can score off the catch are much more of value as opposed to ball stoppers. And you're seeing that now with Hardy moving back towards the back end of the draft. Like, ball stopping guards hardly win games. They keep you at the front of they keep you at the beginning of the draft.
Yeah, you have to be so elite at it. You have to be Anthony.
Right.
Like Jalen Green.
Yeah.
Yes, you have to be Jalen Green. You have to be that level of a talent to be able to be that high of a pick. Otherwise, you're just kind of a guy, right? You're going to go average 24 a game in the G League.
The only thing that's going to help him
overseas
is if he ends up being able to score it, and he can come in on the bench, come from the bench of the team, and I think that'll be the fit for him. A team that needs an offensive push coming from the bench, and that'll be more of his fit. But
in the form of like a Jamal Crawford type.
Yeah, being in the second round won't allow that pressure of him doing that. I think that's why he's going to be a guy that's probably slipped to the second round. But again, he can score it. He can score.
San Antonio's pick is in at 25. They are selecting another ACC guy, Blake Wesley, out of Notre Dame. That is the Spurs' third pick tonight. Jeremy Sohan in the top 10, Malachi Branham at 20, and now Blake Wesley at 25. Branham and Wesley back to back. I think I've said that both. I like both of these guys. I think it's great value at both of those picks, but is it a little redundant? Maybe. RC, what do you think?
Hey, San Antonio's going to win the G League championship year after year, baby. They don't hold back. They come for rings. They come for wings. Austin Turo's got something to be reckoned with.
Wow.
It's upside play. That is all this is. It's the same thing we said about the DeJounte Murray when he was picked. Like, that's an upside play. It's a weird fit. So I think really what the Spurs are doing is they're just kind of saying at this point in the draft, we're just looking for the guys that have a chance to end up being an all-star one day and develop into that. And like Malachi Branham, he's going to be able to get buckets. If you could teach him how to defend and teach him how to want to play on that end of the floor, you get a 15-point score out of somebody at the number 20 pick, you're doing a good job. Blake Wesley, Greg, you mentioned this. To me, he is the guy that could have ended up being Jaden Ivey if he had came back to school.
Yeah.
So I get
secondary
it.
ball handler too. I mean, the only thing is, like I said, this is what you guys don't, not you all, but what these guys don't get is year after year, they're going to take guys, same position. Now you're fighting for your life. If you're with with that group of guys, they're just going to throw you in a room and, whoever comes out, good luck for it.
There's definitely going to be fighting for their life happening in San Antonio. I mean, they're three best players, in my opinion, other than DeJounte Murray, who there's rumors DeJounte Murray could be on the move. But other than him, the next three guys on San Antonio, Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, and Lonnie Walker. And now you add those two into the mix. I mean, not everybody's going to eat, right? Somebody's going to be held out here. Maybe they do get sent down to the G League. Very interesting is how I would call it. Because I love Branham and Wesley both as individual picks. I'm fascinated that they went both of them with the roster fit as is. But hey, can't knock it. I think he may have been the best available player on the board. And fellas, EJ Liddell continues to fall. Not that I would say like he was a lock to go in the mid-teens or anything like that, but this is a guy that I've kind of looked at since we've gotten around the 18-19 range. We're down to pick number 26 right now. He's still on the board. He had another year. He could have returned to college. Not that he necessarily had anything to prove, but he did forego an extra year of eligibility as a senior. He could have came back to Ohio State. That is something I want to ask you guys about, because we're getting in that range where there are guys who are going to lose some money. Let's just call it what it is. If you're not the first round selection tonight, you might lose some money, and you may have made a decision to leave a little earlier than you should have. RC, you've been around in the league. You know guys who have probably gone through this. Talk us through what that's like. Like on draft night, that's got to be a harrowing experience.
Listen, I think that's the only thing I dislike about the whole process. Everybody thinks they're gonna get drafted, and all these guys. I've been watching guys. We talked about it off air, before we came on, about guys like this is the night, and the reality is you're not getting drafted, and you get there's so much information out there, and they tell these guys this, and I think that in the future, the only thing I would like to add with all this NIL and everything else is just having more direct communication with NFL personnel to tell these kids directly where they see them and where they value them and think they'll be picked. And right now, that's not the case. You're going to have representations and agents and everybody else, advising some of these kids, and obviously they're not making the right decisions. So, but the whole process within itself is you don't know. The league kind of tells you probably the top 20 or so guys, and you get a feel for what that is. And the rest of these guys are just trying to hoping and praying that a workout is going to change that. And the workout's not. It just gives them a chance to physically lay eyes on you. They're not going to ignore tape and ignore, how many ever games that you played in.
How about
So we have the
Washington still hadn't been.
Yeah, well,
No.
we have the pick in. We have the pick in for number 26. It's Houston. It's Dallas drafting for Houston, right? And it is Wendell Moore, RC. We talked about this, man. I love Wendell Moore as a role player in the NBA. Assuming, here's my big question, and T.O. and RC, I want you both to answer this. Are you buying Wendell as a 38 to 4? I think he ended up shooting 41% from three as a junior. Are you buying him as a plus shooter when he gets to the NBA level?
I'll buy him as a guy that can make shots. He's not going to take them. He's only going to take his percentage is more indicative, which is a good thing. He takes open shots. He knows what he is. He's a secondary ball handler and a guy that wants to defend your best player. And he's going to cut an elite offensive rebounding guy from the guard position. I think he can snatch it and push it, and I think he's capable of knocking down shots. He's never going to be a great three-point shooter, but he's unafraid of the moment. He was the guy early on in the year that was a closer for those guys. Even late in the year, they put the balls in his hand to take games home. So I'm a huge fan of Wendell Moore. I've been a fan of his for a long time. Like I've said before, he developed at his own pace. I think he can be an effective three-point shooter because he'll only take good open shots.
I like adding a player like Wendell besides some of their live wire acts at the guard spot that they have, because it gets somebody that can settle you down a little bit besides, Porter and Jalen Green. I buy him is kind of like what RC's saying. He's not going to overexert. He's not going to force shots. He's somebody that's going to fit into the flow of an offense. He's going to defend at a good enough level. He's really long, and he was good this year. He was good this year at just playing a role and doing all the right things. Is he a big time scorer? No, but he's going to do all the other stuff that'll help your team win.
Producer hopping in here. Wendell Moore is going to the Timberwolves.
Yeah.
That's what I said earlier.
He's going to the Timberwolves. Minnesota acquired the pick from Houston via the Christian Wood trade with Dallas. So this is
I knew I had it inside. My buddy told me that they loved him and they knew we were going to take him. So I figured that's where he was going early on before they traded it. They loved him.
Although we had another moment where we had Shams and Woj tweeting two different things, so I had to double check that. But Shams said Houston is trading Wendell Moore to Dallas, which would have made a lot of sense.
It's
Dallas
Shams.
Shams.
It's Shams. It's Shams. I'm going to start calling you Doggin.
Well, how about this?
Doggin.
It may be
Shams. It's Doggin.
Whatever. You know what I mean, all right? But yeah, so he is going to Minnesota.
Dagan's had enough.
I am.
It's the middle of June, and Dagan has officially had enough. But look, Wendell is another one of these guys that is just such a perfect fit for the modern NBA. Just such a perfect fit to do a job. That's all you need him to do is go out there and do a job. He can do it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I like the pick. And by the way, while we're talking about Dagan being a little tired, as he should, okay, these marathon live streams are difficult on everybody. Dagan, you don't take that from Robert Dauster. This gives us a good chance to reset as well here. I don't think I've mentioned this on the stream, but if you're watching this, first of all, thank you. We appreciate you. Please go subscribe to the Field of 68 on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, all social media platforms. Certainly, we are here to cover the NBA draft, but we are here to cover college basketball as well. You will see these shining faces all season long as we get closer and closer to the college basketball season. We are winding down the first round of the NBA draft. The Miami Heat are on the clock at 27. Miami, I mean, a missed pull-up three away from the NBA Finals this season. A pretty win-now type team. Some win-now guys that I think are out there. Could this be a spot for the first point guard to go? I mean, this is a team with an aging Kyle Lowry. Could they take a flyer on a Ty Washington or a Kennedy Chandler? T.O., what would you do if you're the GM of the Miami Heat here?
Man, they always seem to draft tough-minded dudes. So I'm curious who they decide to go after here. And just so Dagan understands, it's 4:40 in the morning here, and the sun has come all the way up. So,
I do feel for you. That is true.
Thanks. No, they usually go for mentality. I'd be shocked. Kennedy Chandler's a pretty good play here. Ty Washington, does he fit that Miami Heat kind of personality? I'm not sure, but I mean, they do have a Kentucky guy in Bam Adebayo, but they're a big mentality team, especially at this point in the draft.
I think
How about
Kennedy
the
Chandler
Bryce?
fits.
How about the Bryce McGowan?
I love Bryce. Long, athletic. You know, they don't need him right now. Bryce is somebody that's going to need 2 years, for 2, maybe 3 years. By year 3, he could be a good player his body needs time. He needs to figure out his jump shot, but you know what? He can score it. He's got a lot of tools, and he's somebody that a few years down the road, if you sitting up there to Sioux Falls or wherever your G League team is for a little while, he's somebody that could really pan out for you in a few years.
I think EJ Liddell makes a lot of sense to Miami.
Man, you really want him drafted.
Yeah.
I do. I don't understand. I don't see what NBA teams aren't seeing, right? Like he shoots, man. He shoots at like 37%. I know that the shot is a little bit flat and he doesn't have a ton of arc and
how tall is he? 6'5"?
No, he's like 6'7". He's got I think he's got a 7-foot wingspan. He averaged 2.5 blocks per game this season. He is a guy that we've seen be a stretch 4 and a stretch 5. He's a guy that can score off the bounce. He tested the draft waters after his sophomore year and came back and lost some weight and ended up having an all. He averaged like 19-8, 2 blocks, couple assists. He's a heady player, and when you see what someone like a Grant Williams is doing for the Celtics, and you see the role that like a PJ Washington is playing with the Charlotte Hornets, and you see the value of having these guys that can be small ball 5s, where you get some rim protection out of someone that is able to switch out and play a little bit smaller and space the floor. It just, I don't get it, but it doesn't matter because they're drafting Nikola Jovic, not Nikola Jokic, Nikola Jovic, and they're probably going to end up just leaving him overseas for a while.
Yeah,
so
that's a draft and stash play. Kid played at Mega, 6'11", can shoot it, really good passer, really skilled. Just is his game going to translate? This was a good pick. Now they can leave him over there. Miami has their core in place. Jovic is a good player. And he's huge at 6'11", 7 feet. And he can play some guard position for you. He's an excellent passer. Nice draft and stash. Does he ever make it over here? Who knows? But he's going to be rich whether he comes to Miami or he stays overseas somewhere.
I'll make a ton of money.
If he does make it over here in the future, I'm intrigued by that roster fit, though. Although obviously a roster can change very quickly in the NBA, but like him as a front court pairing next to Bam Adebayo, that's 2 pretty versatile guys, right? Who can do more things than guys at those positions can normally do while not needing to be the first option on a team. That's interesting. I like that fit. I hope he makes it sooner rather than later. Honestly, I'd like to see him in that fit.
Yeah. All right. So Golden State's on the clock now. What do they need, right? What are you looking to add if you're Golden State at this point? You're coming off the title, and you're kind of in this weird window where you know that Steph is not getting any younger, and you know that Klay's not getting any younger, and he looked like he might be kind of washed, and Draymond Green's not getting any younger, and he had like 2.5 good games in the entirety of the playoffs. You have a bunch of young pieces. Andrew Wiggins looked awesome in stretches. Moses Moody is there. Jonathan Kuminga is there. Jordan Poole is there. But you're also in a situation where
Justin Lewis.
That's who you would take, Justin Lewis?
Yep. Only because I think he just fits just from an interchangeable part. I mean, whoever this is, I don't know. I would think it has to be a guy like that. I think is physically ready that can change. Other than that, you're not cracking that rotation. I mean, hell, I thought they hit a home run last year in the draft. They still got Wiseman coming back. I mean, I just don't know what they could go anywhere.
I know who my pick would be, and it would take me 10 seconds to get this into the podium. It'd be Jaden Hardy. I mean, you are sitting on a guy who has top 10 upside in this draft, who every other contender has now passed. And if you're Golden State, while it certainly would be nice to add someone who can contribute on the floor right now, you're already building a core for 10 years from now with the guys you drafted last year, with Jonathan Kuminga, with Moses Moody, with James Wiseman, with Jordan Poole. Now I get to throw another guy with that upside in here, and you throw him into the winning culture with all of the mentors that Golden State has around them, how they've been able to take guys with questions and with work ethic stuff and turn them into winners. Man, I really think this could be one we look back on and feel stupid that we let this guy fall to the 28th pick in the draft.
The one thing I will say about that, and I actually don't hate it, because Jaden Hardy, to me, if you're going to have like a comparison to what he could be, it's kind of like a Jordan Poole. Like that dude can go out and kind of create on his own in isolation. He's got the handle, he's got the dribble moves, he's got the step backs, he's got the no conscience when it comes to the jumper, right? He can go out and get a bucket. And if you can kind of get him in and work with those trainers and work with those skill developers and work with the same people that have turned Jordan Poole from Swaggy P or whatever he called himself when he was at Michigan to this dude that he is right now, who looks like the guy that's going to be replacing Steph when Steph ends up hanging him up. That makes a lot of sense to me. And as much as I want to sit here and be like, yeah, you got to draft EJ Liddell.
They're drafting right now to try to take the G League trophy from the Austin Toros is what they're drafting, because nobody who's getting drafted right now is
cracking that rotation.
Is nobody. So you're
honestly like, I would not be surprised if the pick that they make here is either traded or sold to somebody else, because you're going to have to pay Jordan Poole soon. Kevon Looney's going to end up getting paid. I think Gary Payton Jr. is going to end up having to get paid. They have a couple other guys that are going to end up being.
They're going to swap all those guys out.
Where's
I think just veteran guys coming in. I mean, I think they just, because again, Wiseman and Kuminga and those guys, I think they're going to be kind of in the rotation next year.
T.O., where's your guy? Where's Ty Ty?
Where's Ty Ty? Like, what's going on? What
am I missing here?
Projected in the top 15.
What am I missing here? I don't know with Ty Ty. I don't see it at the NBA level with him, man.
But so many people had him in the top 15. Like, that's the one thing. I'm referencing right now. I'm looking at a couple of different draft boards. Like, Ty Ty has been consistently in the top 15. I don't think his athleticism translates whatsoever, but he makes good reads. He's a smart player. Could be a solid backup one. I'm a little shocked because so many people had him so high, rather. Not necessarily that I thought it would translate well, but he's a good decision maker that can keep your train on the tracks while your second unit's in the game.
Guess who the Warriors took? Patrick Baldwin Jr. A shooter. I don't hate it. I don't hate it. One, good for him.
Like the Warriors taking the shooter. Man.
Good for him, because like that, feel bad for what
a bad decision that was.
To go to draft him or to go to Milwaukee.
Go to play with his dad.
Yeah, that was
no. That's never a bad decision to go play.
What are you talking about?
Man, come on.
Yeah, went and played dad, dropped his ass 20 picks.
No, he was
sounds to me like a bad position.
He was going there anyway.
No. What if he goes somewhere besides Milwaukee and gets some kind of what kind of weight plan do you think? What kind of strength and conditioning program you think they have at Milwaukee compared to what they have at Duke? Like, come on, man.
RC,
like, he would have shown a little bit better.
He got hurt. I think that was the kind of thing where
he got hurt.
Once they really,
he didn't get hurt. He didn't want to play.
He got hurt, man.
He got hurt. T.O. needs a nap. It's official. T.O. needs a nap.
It's 5 in the
T.O.,
morning.
man, he went down, man. He got hurt, man. It's never a bad.
I got hurt too.
T.O.,
I get hurt too.
All I gotta say, T.O., all I gotta say is that the last time we had you on here on No Sleep, you picked Miami to the Elite Eight. All right, so I don't want to hear you. T.O. with no sleep is better than T.O. fully rested. I'm convinced of that.
I'm like, don't call it Cleo, call it T.O., especially after about 5 a.m. He's ready to go. Go ahead and bring it to me, buddy.
I'm expecting the kids to come in.
How many picks do we have left?
we have 2 picks left, T.O. We have just 2 more. We're almost across the finish line.
T.O., we're doing the second round too, right? They didn't tell you that?
No. Tonight?
Yeah, we're doing the whole draft. You didn't know that?
You have to send me a pink slip. No. All right. So that's an interesting one, Baldwin Jr. Like, I think like he could have possibly tested better if he went to a place that was better suited to have him ready to play. Like, and then done all these tests, and like he knew what to expect going in. You think they were doing pro combine stuff Wisconsin, Milwaukee, besides all those guys, those 5'4" guards he was playing with. Like, I think he would have been better suited playing somewhere. I understand the intrigue of playing with your dad. I completely understand that. But this was a kid that, you know, he needed help athletically, and he didn't get any of it there, obviously.
Your boy, number 29 to the Houston Rockets, T.O. Ty Washington.
That's good. Yeah, I like that.
He's off the board.
I like it for a lot of the same reasons why I would have liked who was it that got put up to Minnesota? No, Waddell. A lot of the same reasons. Somebody
So we
to
got
settle things down.
I'm not entirely sure what to think of this because I was duped by this conference all college basketball season, but Houston just went triple SEC. They just went Jabari Smith, Tari Eason, Ty Washington, back to back to back.
I thought you were going to say you were duped by the Big Ten all season.
The Big Ten was what it was, T.O. We know that. I can lie about it as long as I want to, but it was what it was. I like that. I mean, I think individually, all three of those guys went a few picks lower than they should have, quite frankly, including Jabari, not to go back to the top, but he was supposed to go 1. He goes 3. Tari Eason probably could have been a lottery pick. He goes 17. Ty Washington was mocked in the 15 to 20 range. He goes 29. That's a win for Houston.
Sun's up, boys. Just had to show you, so I wasn't lying. No, I agree with you. Greg.
I'm not. I can't get on the Ty bandwagon. I just don't see it.
He just needs to be solid. He's just.
Well,
solid.
But I will say this: if you're going to see it, it's going to be in that backup combo guard role, fitting in. He gets to come into Houston and kind of just fit in. So I think he is going to a situation that's conducive to him being successful. Is not necessarily your point guard, but just coming in as a combo guard, looking to get some buckets.
All right, we don't know who the number 30 pick is going to be yet. Denver will be taking the number 30 pick. I want to know for each of you guys, give me the best players on the board, right? The second round picks that we always see a couple that end up being stars, whether it's someone like a Jalen Brunson or DeJounte Murray, or there's always guys in the second round that end up outperforming where they were drafted. Who do you think has a chance to end up being a star coming out of the second round? T.O., I'm going to go to you first on this one.
Well, man, there's a lot of guys that you could see kind of make strides. Justin Lewis, you mentioned one. A guy that I really like that I think in today's NBA, we talked to him earlier in the season, Isaiah Mobley from Southern Cal. His ability to operate in short roll situations because he's a good passer. He's skilled. He can shoot it a little bit. Is he a great shooter? Right at 35%, shot 43 the year before this. He's somebody that kind of fits the modern day mold in the form of, hey, he can make some decisions. He can shoot it a little bit. He can board. He is old. I mean, he's 22 years old, but he's somebody that could come in and help.
RC?
You know what? I'm thinking in the you're talking about second round, right?
Yep.
How about Andrew Nembhard?
I would have taken Andrew Nembhard here if I was the Rockets over Ty Washington.
Whoa.
I just think that he's someone that's particularly in the second round. Now you're getting value. You're getting guys that there's not a lot of expectation on these guys. I just like him in the second round. I think with his size, he's a big guard, big league guard, steady guard. I think I'm hoping he just goes to the right fit.
Yeah. It's so much about fit with these second round picks.
No question.
I mean,
it's with all of them.
Yeah. Bryce McGowan, that's another guy that could come in and be really good after a few years of development. Max Christie. I mean, he bet on himself. That's what he said. He bet on himself. That's a guy I thought should have come back. He should have gone back to school. So
there was
yeah.
Let's just say not all parties got along in that situation last year. So it was not a surprise that Max Christie did not decide to go back to school. What about Peyton Watson?
Another one that should have gone back to school.
Well, I was going to say that. I mean, who would be the guys now that we know that they believe they probably was first round draft picks that obviously now or got some bad information that
Well, yeah,
probably want
I
to
will
get
say
back.
this. I did a study on this, and I do think that if you are a top 50 pick in the last 2 years, 31 of the 32 second rounders that were in that 31 to 50 range ended up getting a guaranteed contract or a two-way deal. 69% of the players that were top 50 picks got at least 1 year of guaranteed money. If you were a top 40 pick, I think you had a 73% chance of getting 2 years of guaranteed money. And as of last season, that was 2.4 million over 2 years, right? It was 925,000 was the guaranteed money for a 1 year rookie deal. So it's not like if you end up being a top 50 pick, you probably made the right decision going pro and leaving early, because if you get that two-way contract, it's not guaranteed that you're going to make the 480 or 1,000 or whatever it ends up being. But as one front office guy put it to me, if you have an agent that's any good, you're going to get your full guaranteed two-way deal. So
right.
It's
Peyton Watson.
Yeah, you're betting on yourself. But and if you come back, a lot of these places can like get close to that 480,000 when it comes to NIL money, but it's still something where it's not like you're going pro and then just getting that like $50,000 camp invite and then you have to figure it out from there, right? You're still going to end up making a lot of money in all likelihood.
The only problem I have with that, Rob, the only problem I have with that, I think you're dead on, and I've seen the numbers you pulled for going top 50. I think there's about 35 more guys who think they're going to go in the next 20 picks, and only 20 of them can go. So I don't know what we do with that. I do think like the G League is in such a strong place now compared to where it used to be, that even if you don't go in that top 50, you can still find a path to the league if you have the right intangibles to get there. But Peyton Watson, 30, that's your guy, Rob. You like Peyton Watson. You just mentioned him.
Yeah, great athlete, versatile, big wing. It didn't really work for him at UCLA last year, and I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that when you're on the same roster as a Jules Bernard and Jaime Jaquez and Johnny Juzang, like it's going to be very hard for you to find minutes, especially when the kid, I'm blanking on his name. He came in off the bench and ended up basically being able to do it. The defender, whatever it was. There was another guy that outperformed him to do the role that he was expected to do. But Peyton Watson is still a guy that is the talented 6'7" athletic wing, known for his defense. In theory, can make a shot. It's worth a risk if you're the Nuggets to get him in. And I mean, at the very least, he can be on the floor, which is something that we're not going to be able to say about Michael Porter Jr., who's making $100 million. So
it's a good point.
That's a very good point. All right, let's recap the final 10 picks of this draft real quick. 21, Christian Brown. 22, Walker Kessler. 23, David Roddy. 23, David Roddy. Just want to say that one again. 24, Marjon Beauchamp. 25, Blake Wesley. 26, Wendell Moore. 27, Nikola Jovic. 28, Patrick Baldwin Jr. 29, Ty Washington Jr. And number 30, Peyton Watson. All right, I want a quick round the horn from all three of you guys. Give me a winner and a loser from the first round of this draft. Rob, I'll have you go first here. Who's your winner? Who's your loser?
The winner of the first round, I will say, I mean, we talked about it already. Detroit, I love them getting Jaden Ivey. I think that Houston getting Jabari Smith at the number 3 pick is something that is going to end up working out very well for them. I don't know how Houston Rockets fans feel about it, but I know they wanted Paolo, but Jabari Smith, number 3 pick, I think makes a lot of sense for them. So I'm going to give you 2 winners. It's Detroit and to me and Houston, especially in a draft like this. Like, you want to be able to have those names at the very top, because those are the guys that could end up being stars.
Give me a loser too, Rob. Who feels bad?
You want a loser, Jeff Goodman.
All right. I mean, fair. Can't knock it. RC,
no,
winner, loser.
In all seriousness, I don't love Johnny Davis to the Wizards. I don't know what you do if you're the Wizards in that spot. Because if you're picking 10, you're kind of in that weird situation where you're like almost in the playing game, but also a long way away from being what you really need to be. So I would say that Johnny Davis is a loser, or Washington Wizards are a loser. I also say Kennedy Chandler, right? I mean, I feel bad for the kid, but he's a 5'11" point guard. How many 5'11" point guards are going to be starting in the NBA? Not many.
Not many. RC, who you got? Winner, loser?
I'm going to go to Orlando. I mean, we talked about it from the beginning. I mean, it's the easy pick, I think, is because Paulo was the most physically ready guy, and he's ready to help you from day one. And he's going to be really effective and he'll probably win Rookie of the Year because I think, again, physically, he's going to come in and punish switches, snatch it, push it. He's going to be a problem against grown men. And I think that's going to be the biggest difference is that won't bother him when he gets in. So I think they got a hell of a player, and I expect big things out of him. He needs time as he improves the range on his jump shots to look out because he's shown the ability to go inside and physically and just punish guys inside. And I expect him to do that at the next level. I think the biggest surprise to me in the first round would probably be Roddy going in the first round. I just didn't see that. I'm shocked by it, but I do like his athleticism for his guy's size. I just wonder, what position he's going to play and his ability to defend early on.
T.O., wrap us up. What do you got?
Another surprise, Christian Brown going 21. But the winner of the draft for me, I'm looking at. I like the roster that New Orleans is putting together, and Dyson Daniels' ability to guard, his ability to play with other players, and his ability to fit into the mold with all those different pieces that they have down there in New Orleans. I think that's going to be a fun team to watch, and I'll go with that. The most confusing thing to me, and I understand that they're in talent acquisition mode, but it seems like they're just drafting the same player over and over. It's San Antonio. And there was a time about, 7-8 years ago where anytime San Antonio made a pick, you didn't question it. And they've just, the last 3 or 4 years, it seems like RC, what you said earlier, that they're drafting the same guy and just hoping to strike gold. Well, kind of the same thing can be applicable to here after them selecting Sohan. So I'm not going to say they're losers per se, but it's kind of hard to see the direction that they're trying to achieve because it's a glut of guys at the same spot. So I'll go with San Antonio as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, the only one I'll add, you guys didn't mention that I would consider a loser tonight. The New York Knicks traded out of their pick for 3 heavily protected future picks that are highly unlikely to convey anything meaningful. I assume they did that for cap relief because I assume they're going to go after a guy like maybe Kyrie Irving. I don't know.
But that's what they're doing. I mean, I think without saying it, without questioning it, that's all it was. Without taking on some of these young guys, they got enough, young pieces there to figure this out. That front office and everybody's under a little bit of pressure of like, we got to get something done now. So they're gonna trade. They're gonna get some veteran in there. I don't care if it's Kyrie over someone else. They're gonna add someone and do it via trade. That's a big contract. They don't need to have anything on their books, and I think that's all you saw with them.
Yeah, it does make sense. If they want Kemba Walker, let me know because the winner of this draft, right here, gentlemen, let's not lie. Rob Dauster nailed this. He nailed it early. It was what it was, folks. I mean, Detroit basketball, it's back. RC knows a little bit about that.
Detroit, all-season champions last 2 years. 2 years running.
You need a couple of those, TL. You know how it works. We appreciate everybody watching this. This was a blast. It was great being back on camera with you guys. This was the Field of 68 After Dark. Now we're actually After Dark, or in TO's case, After Dawn, maybe. Appreciate all 3 of you really being here for us. Remember, like, subscribe, follow the Field of 68, and we will see you next time.